All right. This is the perfect way to start this live stream. So what we're talking about today.
Oh, we're live. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we are live. And what we should do at the very beginning of a live stream is tell everyone like what the live stream is about. Not just like random singing and stuff. I could also start it with TikTok Time to Rock, but
derivative.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it on the screen here. We're reviewing the Shmuley. I haven't had a chance to ask him like how to pronounce his name. Maybe you guys know the correct way to.
I think it's
Shmuley. Okay.
Or as Hijab is going to say, unholy Shmuley. That's what I think. That's what he called.
We're reviewing the Shmuley Hijab debate on Piers Morgan, and currently we are waiting on Shmuley to join us. He's going to join us in about 10 minutes, but what we're going to do is kind of just set up the stream, chat a little bit about the debate, because you guys have already done a full debate review. Did you watch the whole thing?
Or did
you skip around?
The entire thing. We watched it all except for the last 20 minutes or so, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I watched
a good portion.
I listened to it all, but then we went through most of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the plan for today's stream, once Shmuley gets here, we are going to go through a certain number of clips. We're going to get his response or his thoughts, and sort of without someone interrupting him. I think that's going to give you guys a little bit different perspective on what he has to say about the issue. But yeah, so in the meantime, do you guys have any additional thoughts on the debate? Anything that has come to mind since your review?
I think just a quick note, I would probably refer to him just as a Rabbi Schmuley. I think he would appreciate that more.
Okay.
I don't know. That's it. David, so what do you say about the debate?
No, he asked you about your debate thoughts. Do you not have thoughts?
He didn't ask me.
Do you not have thoughts?
Oh, yeah. So, well, the debate was, it was a comedy show. It was very interesting. I think it was pretty much a comedy show. That's what people call it. It was very entertaining, to be honest. When I watched it the first time, I laughed a lot. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, this makes me want to watch more Mohammed Hijab. Because he's laughable. He says outrageous, terrible things. But honestly, one thing we noticed about the debate was that one of the major arguments that Mohammed Hijab had, was that Israel is killing people with a 100-to-1 ratio. So killing Hamas members, killing 100 civilians for one Hamas member. And he got that number from a completely wrong understanding, which he read in a Guardian article. Apparently,
yeah, okay, so real quick, before you get into that, because we're going to talk about all that, we're going to play the actual review. Yeah, yes. Hold off on that, because we're going to play it. We're going to get Rabbi Schmuley's thoughts and everything. So, yeah, hold off on that. We're going to tear that up to pieces.
On a more general note, that is an ongoing problem. I mean, like Daniel Hakikachu will quote sources to defend child marriage, and then IP, Inspiring Philosophy, actually reads the source. He's like, this is not saying what he claims it's saying, and he says it's like Daniel just reads the abstracts to find something that he can use for Islam, and then he'll go around say, this study shows this, and so on. And IP's like, that's not what the study says at all. It's like he doesn't even he reads the abstract, misunderstands the abstract, and then uses it as evidence. But you see the exact same thing from all of them. AP, when we go through Ali Dawa saying, oh, this guy said this in his book, and we actually go to it, and the guy says nothing of the kind. And now you've got Mohammed Hijab, and he's using as his main argument the 100-to-1 ratio, and it's basic. He literally could not understand the title of the article he was quoting. And it's like, it's this weird situation. It's not the exact same thing as The Boy Who Cried Wolf, but it's similar in the sense of, like, you guys keep coming with stuff and you say, hey, there are these sources that show this, and you say, oh wow, they've got these sources that show this, and then you eventually look it up and, oh, That's not what the source said. Oh, you're citing another source. Oh, that's not what it said. Oh, you guys are quoting the Bible. Oh, no, that's not what the Bible says. What are you guys talking about? It's to the point where you almost have to say, with any of the Dawa guys that you're interacting with, almost any of them, you'd have to say, look, if you're going to cite a source and expect it to be taken seriously in this debate, you need to send it ahead of time to everyone so that everyone can read it. And that way, when you say something about it, we'll know if you're telling the truth or not, because we just can't take you guys seriously anymore when you're saying, oh, this source says this article says that. They either lack basic comprehension skills or they're deliberately deceptive. But either way, can't take them seriously anymore when they're citing sources.
To be fair, I would say Al-Dawa is probably a very bad comparison because Al-Dawa probably can't read.
Very rude.
But when it comes to Mohammed Hijab, for example, Mohammed Hijab, I mean, we know the guy reads, he studies, and you would expect somebody like that to
prove it.
So we would expect somebody
AP,
like that to sit down and understand the title, but
I don't have your soundboard of all your sound effects. I'm a little bit jealous.
Oh yeah, you should get that. That's amazing. Best investment ever.
See if they work when we're live here, AP.
I didn't plug it in.
Oh my goodness, amateur hour. All right.
Yeah.
Well, ruined this show. AP ruined this show.
No, okay. So one thought that I had on the debate, it was, well, obviously very, very difficult to watch. And I was doing my best because I'd anticipated. I was like, well, I may do some sort of content on this debate. So I was trying to like hone in and listen in on the content and the substance and stuff. And it was so challenging to just actually pick out the substance, the things that they would actually like talk about. When I was actually sitting down getting clips ready for the stream today, I was able to do that to a much greater degree, but it was still just like, it was so challenging. It actually, the whole debate reminded me a lot of the debate between, why can I not think of his name? Dave Farina and
James
the other
Tour?
guy? James Tour. Yeah. Did you guys watch that?
I didn't see it, but I heard that that Professor Dave or whatever his name is just started like ruining it. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, he went in there.
But he came to me on Twitter, and he was spamming my Twitter for weeks now, and just using cuss words and just yelling and like being very weird. Eventually, I ended up blocking him. That's all I know about him. Dave.
Wow. And that is wild because AP normally just automatically sides with any atheist involved in a discussion. So the fact that he had to block someone, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I just noticed both of you are wearing red. Was that intentional or did you just...
I called AP earlier and I said, hey, AP, what are you going to wear to the live stream? He said, I'm wearing red. And I said, oh, okay, I'll do that too. That way we match.
Yeah, I mean, I have to find something red to wear. But people think there is a red light behind me. That's not true. It's just my shirt is glowing so much. That's why it looks all red. Yeah.
You're actually in Hades. That's why
yes,
it's glowing too. Red.
My shirt is Hades.
Get used to it, bub.
Yeah, no, that was the main, like, it's unfortunate you guys didn't see that debate because there were a lot of similarities, but in contrast between the two, this one was way worse in terms of like the talking over each other and not being able to get a word in and stuff. The other one was a little bit more civilized, but I mean, watching that debate, I was like, this is almost unwatchable. And then this one, like, I have no idea how as a moderator, because that's kind of like my role on this channel is I interview people, but I also like host discussions and stuff. So I've been in the role of a moderator before, and you've got to take control of the situation. And Pierce was like falling for bait. He was not stepping in when he should have. He was just yelling, and he was basically like another participant as opposed to like a host of a show. It was that was one critique. I mean, I don't think he'll ever watch this, but
that was one of my critiques of Pierce. Bad. Yeah, that was bad moderating, and I mean, on the one hand, he's just probably not used to someone jumping in at that level and trying to cut people off and trying to derail the entire discussion to that extent. Part of it is, for drama purposes. I mean, if it's a YouTube channel, so for drama purposes, probably want to give some people some leeway to start the back and forth. Because notice, he could have come in there and said, "Guys, we're going 2-2, no interruptions the entire time." He wants more interaction than this. Wants some degree of arguing. But yeah, that's a problem, and he just seemed to have no clue how to make Hijab listen to him and actually follow rules. It wouldn't have been that difficult. He could have just said, "Look, anytime it's okay you jumping in when I tell you hang on, let him speak. If you interrupt him when I say, either one of you, if you interrupt when I say, hey, let this guy finish his point, then I'm going to cut your mic and I'm going to give this person 5 minutes uninterrupted. Do you want that?" And no, it would have. That's how you do it. But
well, in Pierre's
we got a big.
He's been covering the Israel-Hamas stuff for weeks, and he's seen his views. I don't think have ever been higher. I could just be unfamiliar with his views in the past, but every single thing that he puts out on the Israel-Hamas stuff, and he'll even interview someone else on a completely different topic, and then just start talking about Israel and Hamas with them.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that in this debate, I think what he's and this is kind of getting into psychological speculation land, but I think he's kind of looking for approval from he wants to seem impartial. And so he's looking for approval from the pro-Palestinian side, or whatever side Hijab is on. And so I could tell he was ready to answer anything that Mohammed wanted to ask him, and he was just falling into every trap that he was being set.
Yeah, after a point, he started. At first, he allowed Mohammed Hijab to basically take over and lead the conversation instead of just moderating a debate between these two people. He actually allowed himself to be questioned by Mohammed Hijab while Rabbi Schmuley was just being ignored, and he was saying, "What is going on? This is supposed to be a debate between us, not a debate between you two." And he's pointing that out, and everyone can see it. And Pierce was like, "Okay, hold on, Rabbi Schmuley. I'll get back to you. Hold on, Rabbi Schmuley."
Yeah,
that was very bizarre, and he kept doing that later on. It was like the rabbi was an easier target for him because he's easier to interrupt. He has much bigger difficulties with Mohammed Hijab. So I don't know. That was a big failure on Piers Morgan's part.
And even on the Mohammed Hijab turning it into he's the moderator of this discussion and he's in control. It's not. I mean, it's a little difficult if you're not used to it, but if you just sit back and think, I mean, all Pierce has to. Well, you answer my question. I'm here to interview you, and he actually said it in the first one at some point, but he could just lay it down. Mohammed Hijab, I'm not answering your questions here. I'm not answering your questions. You guys are debating. I'm moderating. I'm not here. I'm not part of this interview except as moderator of the discussion. But no, he just jumped into it every time because, Hijab's Hijab's claims and questions are coming across as attacks, and he wants to actually defend himself. And so not great. I think everyone's on the same page in terms of Pierce is doing a great job at actually getting a bunch of people on there to share their views and so on. But yeah, he could possibly defend himself in the first Mohammed Hijab interview in the sense of maybe he didn't know what he was getting into. But once he saw in that first one that Hijab likes to take control of the discussions, he likes to start tossing in insults to make people uncomfortable. Why are you stuttering? Right? He likes to do that. Once you realize that, then you don't have much of an excuse for the next time.
You know what's funny? Rabbi Schmuley, he noticed early on that Pierce is getting pushed around by Mohammed Hijab, and he said something like, "Pierce, I don't know why you are so intimidated by this guy." He said that at the very beginning sometime.
What would have been funny is if Rabbi Schmuley had said, "Pierce, I don't understand why you're getting intimidated by this guy. He's right. Why are you stuttering?" That would have been that would have been epic.
Yeah. This I mean, I'm really excited to get into the content. We are still waiting for those of you that are just joining us. We are waiting on Rabbi Schmuley to join the stream. He is on his way here. There was a little bit of a scheduling mix-up. That's why we were supposed to start at 7 Central, and then we started at 8:30 Central. But we are still waiting on him. He should be here by now, but he'll be here soon. So in the meantime, we've got the two YouTube stars of Islamic Apologetics. So what do you guys? Let me ask you. Actually, I'm really curious. What are you guys currently working on?
Hold on, I want to say. Some people are saying that David's microphone is a little bit too low. I'm not
too
sure
quiet. So
I can turn it up.
I did see comments about that. I didn't hear a difference, but if people are saying that
you got to
chat, then maybe
you got to be ask people if it's right, because you got to be careful, because some people complain just for just to complain and throw people off. Right?
Yeah. See, I'm looking at y'all's. I'm looking at y'all's levels, and it looks okay. It does look okay. All right, here we go. I think Rabbi is here.
Chuck, did you get you got to put on the social media. I'm about to join this thing. You got to put on the social media. Oh God.
Well, Rabbi, can you hear me?
Hold on one second. Chuck, I can only do one thing at a time. They're looking at me and they're about to do this, and I've got to join this.
Yeah.
So what? Just bring all this stuff and
yeah, we'll have him join in just a little bit. Looks like he's still getting
let me get set up.
So yeah, well, he's here. We are about to do this review. I'm super excited. Spent all day putting clips together. I think I've got, let me see a total. I don't think we're going to get through all the clips that I have prepared, but about 21 different sections of the review. Again, we're probably not going to get to all of those, but we'll cover like the main important points. One of the points that we're going to cover pretty extensively, is that ratio that Mohammed brought up, that 100-to-1 ratio. Going to discuss that in some pretty good detail. So
yeah, because that is wrong.
Very, very wrong. Maybe we should also, as we are starting, we should probably get an opinion on the hostage deal that has just been reached and announced. It's just
I can actually put that up on the screen. Let me see.
Yeah, looked like a decent deal to me.
I don't know.
Let's see. There we go.
Some people are saying terrible. Others are saying at least something. But I don't know.
Yeah, so here's the agreement. The agreement is 50 hostages for exchange for 4-day truce in Israel's air and ground campaign.
There's also
David,
another
you
detail.
think that's a pretty good deal? Didn't you say you think that's a pretty good deal?
Yeah, Israel has always been very dedicated to getting hostages out, even if they have to take massively lopsided deals and exchange tons of terrorist prisoners in exchange for one hostage in the past. And so they've always been really dedicated on getting people back. So if they get 50, they get a batch of 50 in exchange for a temporary ceasefire.
There's more to it. There's more to it. There's actually what is not seen there on the screen is that they are also supposed to release 150 Palestinian prisoners.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In addition, which is why some people are, blasting the deal.
Yeah, I didn't see.
I only glanced at it. I'd be in favor of the 50 for a temporary ceasefire, but if there are other things involved that might be a bad. I'd have to read it.
But the announcements were also made that this is basically just Hamas trying to, take a breath, buy time, and then continue with their.
Rabbi, feel free to give me a thumbs up when you're ready to join. Okay. Yeah, we can go back to this scene here. The other points that I wanted to make sure that we hit on is, well, at one point there was a definition of genocide that was discussed, which I thought was important, but Hijab completely glossed over it, didn't respond to it.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, it was terrible in that he was, well, the whole discussion of war crimes, and he says anytime civilians, first it was just if civilians get killed, that's a war crime. And
okay, looks like Rabbi's ready. All right, let's see if we can pull him in here.
Okay.
All right, Rabbi, are you there?
I'm here. Hey guys.
Excellent.
Hello.
How's it going?
So it's going well.
It's good.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. So if you, I know that your time is valuable. Would you like to go ahead and begin and start talking about the debate?
Let's start immediately. To all your viewers, I'm sorry there was a mix-up. I just got back from Israel, Italy, England, Europe, Israel for my son's wedding and supporting the country. My son's an IDF soldier. Support, of course, my son's wedding, but supporting the country. Also, we try to go during every war, and Israel has way too many of them because the terrorists are intent on its annihilation. Then we went to a meeting at the Vatican, trying to get the Vatican to put out a statement that the Holy Land is the eternal heritage of the Jewish people, based on the Bible and God's promise. And then debating, Mohammed Hijab and Cenk Uygur and Piers Morgan, doing a lot of other TVs. I got back very late last night, and there was a mix-up, whether it was Central Time, Eastern Standard Time. But here I am, and thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I as we start, I would like to ask you just to share your general thoughts on the debate, any kind of like things that you'd like to have done differently, or any thoughts if you've had a few days to sort of reflect on what actually happened during that debate.
Well, look, when you agree to debate someone like Mohammed Hijab, you know that you're debating someone who's irrational. He's a hater. This guy has a long history. I didn't know all of the history, obviously, but he has a history going to Speaker's Corner, which was this place in London where you can just mouth off. He has said insane stuff. Again, we found this out later. He has said that the Quran would allow 5-year-old girls to have sex. That's an embarrassment to Islam. No Muslim would agree with such disgusting pedophilia. He has said that Islam is a religion of martyrdom and we should all die for it. Like he, let alone the stuff he has said about Jews. But so when you agree to debate someone like him, you know that he's not going to be rational. He's not going to be fair. He's a bully. He's a street thug. So why debate him? Well, the answer is that, first of all, Piers Morgan had given him an audience of 8 million people the week before. And it's incumbent upon us Jews to fight back against all the lies and defamation about our people. That's number one. Number two, he had said that the Jews are now trembling and no one would debate him. This Jew in front of you trembles before none but God. And that should be true of our entire nation. We've had enough fear in Jewish history. That has to be the past and not the future. Finally, number three, we have to get out the message of what is really happening. And if it means having to go up against thugs like him, so be it. Now, I'm well aware of the fact that when you brawl with someone, a street brawl, you end up having parts of a debate that you don't really want to have, shouting and talking over each other. But there's only one of two options in a debate like that once you agree to do it. You're either going to be tough and stand up for yourself, or you're going to let that guy railroad you and step all over you. That, again, was not going to happen. So those, I guess, are my overall insights, other than to say that Mohammed Hijab is a disgrace to Islam. After the debate, he actually posted that I have 2 sons serving in the IDF, incredible heroes, fighting for democracy and human life. And he actually posted pictures of them in body bags, God forbid. He's a pig. He's vile. He's disgusting. He's execrable. And it's really wrong of Piers Morgan to elevate Islamists like him. He's being reported to the police, the cyber crimes unit, et cetera, et cetera. The United Kingdom is a nation of laws, and we're going to hold him accountable. And he's an abomination to Islam. That sums it up.
Yeah, I've got the tweet up right here that you can see that he made talking about. Yeah. Well, David or AP, do you have any thoughts before we get into the review?
Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, yeah, I did see lots of people, of course, complaining that the debate was a big shouting match and so on. I would have liked to have seen better moderation from Pierce, but as far as Rabbi Schmuley's reaction, once Hijab starts flexing and jumping in and tossing around insults and so on, you can either sit there and take it, in which case he's just going to completely dominate the discussion and shout you down the entire time, or you can dial up too, and you're going to get a shouting match, but he doesn't come across as, he silenced you and left you in a state of fear and trembling. So yeah, it's pretty much, yeah, I'd say you did exactly what you do.
I think that's fair. Listen, I happen to like Piers Morgan. I've known him for years, back from his CNN days. But I do have to say, in his first debate, call it what you will, with Mohammed Hijab, I thought he allowed Mohammed Hijab to walk all over him. I was kind of shocked by it. And that was not going to happen to me. But even in our debate, we flipped a coin and I won. And I said, you know what? Out of a sense of respect, I said to him, you're my Muslim brother. You go first. And you saw immediately what he did. He immediately asked Piers Morgan a question in order to stifle me. And I was shocked that Piers Morgan allowed that. And from then on, Piers was not being much of a moderator. Listen, is it true that what's happening in England spilled over into our debate, which is Islamists are beginning to really take over a lot of English life? They're vocal, they're intimidating. They don't just march, they wear keffiyehs, they cover their faces, they burn things, they break things. They try to be very intimidating. Was Piers Morgan intimidated? I think he was somewhat intimidated. Yeah, I think he was. I don't think it was moderated fairly. And it's not said as a criticism of him because I think he's very fair on Israel. I just think it's a statement of reality of what's happening in Europe. I think Europeans are becoming very bullied, very intimidated, not by Muslims, but by Islamists.
So on the note of the debate, I know, AP, we're going to get your thoughts here in just a little bit, but I think I've pinpointed exactly where the debate started to derail, and you already mentioned it. It's basically when he asked Piers a question after you had both just given your sort of opening statements on the topic that he just gave you. And then this is kind of what let me go ahead and play this clip here.
Okay, we've got a passionate start. Mohammed, let me ask you about Hamas.
I want to first, before you do that, I want to commend you, Piers, honestly, because bringing me on for the second time, I have to commend you. And the fact that you actually condemned the settlements is very good. But people want to know, do you think the IDF are a terrorist organization?
So that is the exact point where the whole debate just got derailed because he changed it from a debate between the two of you.
And now he's becoming the interviewer. As soon as it happened, I knew that I would have to interject. Look, sorry to be theological for a moment, but in the Bible we read.
Looks like he.
Looks like he dropped for a second. Might come back.
He was about to drop a serious theological.
He was just quoting the Bible, and
the question is, he may be able to hear us, but he may be frozen as far as. Yeah,
it looks like it's just a little internet issue.
You see,
pull this back up. So
yeah,
while we're waiting for him to come back, I wanted to get AP's thoughts.
Hang on,
go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to the issue you just brought up because we were talking about it a little before. Right when Mohammed Hijab asked that question, because notice Pierce is about to go into the discussion. Mohammed, nope, I'm going to control this. I'm going to tell you what to talk about. Pierce's response, even if he would love to answer the question or clarify his thoughts, right there he should have been. I'm not answering any questions right now. If you want to have something, if you want to do something in the future where you can ask me my view on things, that's fine. Right now, we're getting this discussion. You guys are debating. You can ask him about that if we have, if the conversation goes in that direction. But you're not questioning me here. I'm not going to answer. And then that would have fixed the course of a lot of the discussion there.
Exactly.
We both know Mohammed Hijab. He planned this. He prepared for this at home. He planned to immediately, praise Piers Morgan, and then ask him a question in order to, dominate the conversation. This was the plan. We both know how he functions. We both know how he plans. He just wanted to take over. He wanted to manipulate. This is what he always does. And Piers Morgan is. Despite his vast experience, not experienced enough to deal with these guys.
Yeah, it's a new kind of thing. But yeah, good to have Rabbi Schmuley back here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Rabbi's back. Yeah, I did want to actually offer, because Rabbi, I mean, I don't know how much I mean, when you're preparing for a debate, there's a limit to how much you can prepare for a debate, especially someone like you who is obviously a very, very busy person. So, but it would have been, I mean, these guys below on the screen, David Wood beneath me, and then AP, they've been interacting and dealing with guys like Mohammed Hijab and Mohammed Hijab himself. But I did want to give them an opportunity to kind of maybe give you some other insight into Mohammed Hijab and that whole aspect of the Islamic dawah and the current state of things. AP, we haven't heard from you in a while, so let's start with AP.
The rabbi was going to quote the Bible, so
oh, right.
I just wanted to get back to that.
Yeah, God cut me off as soon as I was going to quote the Bible. We Jews we do a Torah portion every week, and we're reading about the book of Genesis. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, Abraham is like the Abraham Accords. Everyone loves Abraham. The Arabs love Abraham. The Jews love Abraham. Everyone wants to claim Abraham. The Christians say that they're from the seed of Abraham, grafted onto the tree of Abraham. But no one claims Jacob. Only the Jews. We're the Israelites. We're named after Israel, Jacob, and that's because unlike Abraham, who's never controversial, like he doesn't try to fight with people. He gives the world God. He's like so above the fray. Jacob's the opposite. Jacob is prepared to fight his own. He's prepared to fight his own brother Esau, who's a wicked, evil man. He's prepared to wrestle away the birthright blessing from him because he doesn't want evil people to rule the world. It's kind of like Israel, the Jews could easily say, look, we're done with the Middle East. This place is crazy. You guys are crazy. We're going to move to Florida, have a nice life, and like sit on the beach. And no, but that would mean that you're going to let Hamas take over the Middle East. You're going to let Iran take over the Middle East. So Israel is Jacob, the Israelites, and we're prepared to get dirty if we have to fight Hamas. So that was the decision that I took with Mohammed Hijab. It doesn't mean that the debate couldn't have been better. It just means that it was never going to be what I wanted it to be because I had to accept that I'm wrestling with Esau. I'm Jacob wrestling with Esau. I'm wrestling with a thug. But you see, my community is very scared right now. In England, the Jewish people are becoming the Illuminati. They're becoming a secret society. Their yarmulkes are coming off. Their Magen Davids are coming off. I can't tell you how many people told me not to walk, be careful walking around, especially after you did the debate. You're going to be beaten up. You're going to be beheaded. You're going to be killed, God forbid. So I wanted to do this debate to show this street thug that he's not an intellectual. He's a faux intellectual. He's a fraud. He keeps on promoting his Oxford credentials. I was the rabbi at Oxford University for 11 years. He did a theology degree, which has a 53% acceptance rate. It's 1 out of 2 people who, and if you really want to get Oxford credentials, you go into the theology program. It's a master's. It's not an undergraduate degree. He's not an intellectual. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know the Middle East. Most of what you saw in the debate is a man who he said that Israel is guilty of genocide. Just like, he said that Churchill is a war criminal. And why? Because of Dresden and names that I was bringing up. How many died in Dresden? He had no clue. How long was the Second World War? He has no clue. He then fabricates and invents all kinds of numbers, which I challenged him on, that Israel's killing 1,000 to 1 militants, terrorists to civilians. Those numbers came out of his tush. There is no source for it whatsoever. So I knew all that was going to happen, and I had to challenge him because he had been given this national program, but this national platform. To the extent that you have anything whatsoever to tell me, I would like to know. But you should look at the aftermath of the debate. He is being pummeled by fellow Muslims all over the United Kingdom for how poorly he did. His community feels that he really humiliated them. I was stopped by scores of Muslims on the streets of London, taxi cab drivers, Muslim bankers, everyone from blue collar jobs to white collar jobs, Muslims telling me, I don't agree with you on Israel. I didn't like whatever you said, but you easily and handily won this debate. Mohammed Hijab is an embarrassment. So now you're saying he's obsessed. He's cutting up the debate. And of course, what he also did was go straight into the whole sex thing. Now, I'm very proud that I write books about sex. I'm a child of divorce. I want to see families rescued. So I'm very proud that I promote healthy intimacy. And my daughter made it into a whole company, the Kosher Sex Company, which rescues marriages and brings vital erotic passion to marriages. We shouldn't be looking at porn. Husbands and wives should really be erotically charged with each other. And I'm dedicated to that mission and wrote a whole book about it with Pamela Anderson, of all people. But Mohammed Hijab, of course, being really sexually obsessive in a really disgusting, perverted way, brought it up in the debate, couldn't stop speaking about vibrators, couldn't stop speaking about lubricants. So when we needled him a little bit afterward, which he absolutely deserved, taking that picture of him and his looking really macho because he has a very false sense of machismo. And when we, I don't know, what is that dinging? But when we simply, went after him a little bit, that's when he lost himself completely and started issuing death threats and became the terrorist that I really think that he is. And I wouldn't be surprised if Scotland Yard does a deep dive into this guy. I would not be surprised for a moment if he has terrorized, et cetera. Because once someone starts showing body bags of Israeli soldiers, and he's a father, he's speaking to a father. And by the way, but he's still, threatening my children with death. But I'll tell you something. That was the critical moment of the debate for me, because how was I supposed to respond to that? Now, let's go back to earlier debates for just a moment. For those of you who still recall, Michael Dukakis, they say, lost the presidential debate against George Bush Sr. In 1988, when he was asked by, I think, Bernard Shaw of CNN, what would happen if your wife was raped and she got pregnant? Would you let her have an abortion or something like that? And then his response was, well, Bernard, very good question. He was when really he should have shown something visceral. People didn't like him for a moment after that. Like, the guy just said your wife could be raped, and that's your answer. So Michael Dukakis lost the debate, and then he lost the presidency. Then you had just last week, Vivek Ramaswamy, who, by the way, I believe is an anti-Semite. I can't stand it. But Vivek Ramaswamy brings up Nikki Haley's daughter just in reference to her daughter using TikTok. And what was Nikki Haley's response? You're scum. And nobody called her out for calling him scum. That's a pretty serious thing to say in a presidential debate, that you're scum. Now, I thought of the same thing when Mohammed Hijab said to me, your son's going to come home in a body bag, God forbid. God forbid. My son's a hero. My son's a true hero, fighting right now, fighting Hamas, fighting Hezbollah. And I pray for his safety. And me and my wife are worried about his safety all the time. And this monster, Mohammed Hijab, knew he could get under my skin, because any parent who has the experience of having a child at war, you're on pins and needles the entire time. And, he knows that. And that's not a sign of my weakness. That's a sign of my love and my compassion, my attachment to my son. But I thought to myself, should I just call him scum like Nikki Haley did? Should I just say what kind of, at long last, have you no decency, as was said to Joe McCarthy? But then I decided, no, I'm not going to do that, because so many of my Muslim brothers and sisters are watching this debate, and it could be misinterpreted that I'm calling a Muslim, and I so respect Islam, a bad word. So instead, I just said to him, have you no decency? But I did not do what Nikki Haley did. But clearly, this guy, as he was losing the debate, got lower and lower and lower until he was a tunneling rat who could not get any lower. So he waited until after the debate to do things that are probably illegal. And again, I think he's going to have to face the legal consequences of his actions.
David, this is all. Yeah, this is. I mean, all of it was planned. Every single jab, every single snarky thing that he said, it was all planned.
Well, what he does is, we have a history. We both have a history with Mohammed Hijab, David Wood and I. We both had, David had a debate. He had a debate planned with me from which he backed out. But with both of us and with many others, he did the very same thing. He looks into your personal history, into things that he can bring up instead of debating actual topics. And then he starts targeting you, sexually harassing you. He made a tweet in which he made a cryptic, imagery in a tweet where he implied that the Twitter Muslims would rape my wife, while even tagging her and putting her tweet up there
during the debate.
No, he did that while we were in talks about having a debate. So. Go ahead, David. Are you going to say something?
I was just going to say,
that's shocking. I mean, what a pig. It's time to call this man who he is. What a pig.
I just wanted to give
Go ahead,
I just wanted to point out, since we've been interacting, I've been able to observe this for a long time. But if you go back just 10 years, lots of Muslim speakers are doing their best to kind of get along with other people and to be, to make a positive impact on the Western world. And it kind of changed with the rise of social media, where a Muslim can just get popular online, and he might get popular online just because he has support from like-minded Muslims rather than because he is appealing to Western viewers. And so you have the rise of a new generation of Dawah guys. They're way more aggressive. They're way more insulting. And Mohammed Hijab in particular, we've seen this for years. he's looking for ways to control you and be able to push you in a direction that he wants to go. So if he has to threaten you, he'll do threats. If it comes to insults, he'll insult you for a while. If he finds out that that doesn't work for you, he's looking for whatever you value in life, so he can start going that. In other words, if it's, hey, if I insult you, I don't get a reaction. What if I insult your wife? What if I insult your daughter? What if I go after your son? He's looking for something so that you eventually go, whoa, I don't want to do this. I don't want to say anything that this guy doesn't want me to say, because he's going after my wife or my daughter or whatever it may be. And he'll do it in the vilest manner imaginable. It's all in an effort to find your weak spot. And once he finds the weak spot where he can control you, then he will just send his army of followers. Okay, harass that person to get at this guy, so that this guy doesn't dare say something I don't want him to say again. So I would say you did you were right on the money in how you should respond. You laughed it off. You pointed out how disgusting the behavior was, and then you did your Mohammed Hijab promo and stuff like that. All of that is showing him, hey, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It's going after his daughter. It's not going to work with this guy. And so, but it's interesting because once he finds out that nothing works, that he can't silence you by, again, going after family members or insults or threats. Once he finds that out, it's like he doesn't have a plan B. There's no plan B. That's the only he has to go on.
I think that is a very insightful analysis, and we should have spoken before the debate as opposed in the aftermath. But I'll tell you, my daughter, look, my kids have been raised in a home where we're fighters for Israel and the Jewish people. We Jews don't have much of a choice. It's the only choice we have. There's a lot of anti-Semitism in the world. So, but my daughter also I have 6 daughters, and I raised them to be strong young women, and they're strong young Jewish women. So when I wrote Kosher Sex, she turned it into a company that became very successful. She got international attention, front page of the Washington Post, thousands of articles written about her when she started Kosher Sex stores that would bring sexuality holiness, that would bring it intimacy, that would make it about passionate monogamy, etc. It was a very brave thing to do. So when he thought that he could really almost embarrass her by bringing her up, as you said, it not only did it backfire, but she deals with men who are bullies, who bully women all the time, sometimes aggressively and violently. She counsels women all the time who are in very violent and aggressive relationships. She despises men like Mohammed Hijab. So she saw it as a real opportunity to expose him for his faux masculinity, to expose him for his sense of personal shortcomings and the constant overcompensation. He's always like who does debates in their bare shirts and challenging people to wrestling matches? I mean, he's a thug. My friend Ron Dermer, who's in the Israeli security cabinet, one of the 5 people running the war right now. He was my student at Oxford, and then he was Israel's ambassador to the United States. He called Hamas very accurately Nazis with GoPros. They're Nazis with GoPros. If they're Nazis with GoPros, then Mohammed Hijab is a street thug with an Oxford degree or some form of Oxford degree. But he really is just a thug. And all it took was my daughter needling him just a little bit after he did all this stuff about sex on the debate by creating the Mojab, the Mohammed Hijab 10% sexual discount on her store. And then she wrote, a little discount is nothing to be embarrassed of. And constantly, and that's when he really lost it. And when he saw, like you said, that couldn't work, and he started speaking about my son dying, God forbid. But here's the difference. You see, violence really does have to be taken seriously. When you say he has no plan B, even that plan A has to be taken very seriously. My sons are on the front lines of war. When we don't hear from our sons for a couple of days and their phones are taken away from them so they can't be tracked, God forbid, by Hamas, by Hezbollah, this is a very serious war against savages. Again, we saw what these people are capable of doing. They are Nazis with GoPros. So when we don't hear from our sons for a couple of days, it's very painful. So he knew that would provoke me, not because he can get under my skin, although anyone can get under my skin without threatening the lives of my children, but rather because he knows that this is a time of terrible anxiety for all parents who have children. And my children are volunteers of the IDF. They weren't born in Israel. They're called lone soldiers, chayalim bodedim. But But rather than even retreat from that, I immediately just decided, no, now you crossed the line. You want to spar a little bit on TV, and we can say this was too much of a brawl as a debate and too much talking over one another. You can say that, but the moment you begin to threaten people's lives, you're in trouble. So the outcome of the
Oh no, we may have lost him again.
Yeah, no, that happens, especially when you're traveling. You can get different. You get a rough internet connection periodically.
That's true. I after this, when he does come back, I do want to discuss some of the substance, that 100-to-1 ratio that we were talking about, that we're going to sort of pick apart.
Yeah. Do you have the article? Do you have the Guardian article?
I've got I've got everything. I've got everything pulled up. Man, the article is it honestly looks like he hang on, it looks like we're gonna
I'm almost back on.
There we go. Okay, we got you back.
By the way, you know what? My getting cut off really is a divine sign that, Shmuley, you're talking too much. You're not listening enough. You're speaking to very wise men, and instead of learning from them, you're just going on and on and on. But I've bottled so much of this up, so I'm sorry for being so verbose. But in terms of him sicking his army on me, I have received tens of thousands of threats, death threats. And even now, we're doing this live on Instagram, and all the Free Palestine people are all following me. But I think that our enemies have to understand this is a new generation of Jews. We were conceived in liberty, born into freedom, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln. We're not the generation of the Holocaust. We've seen what happens when Jews don't fight back enough. The 6 million martyrs of our people, who were the bravest Jews because they died proudly as Jews, but they couldn't fight back because they didn't know a time when Jews had statehood. They didn't know a time when Jews had their own army. And they didn't live in these free liberal democracies where we can speak out. I can speak to you guys and say whatever the heck I want, and I'm going to defend my people. And the Mohammed Hijabs of this world, who think that they're going to somehow intimidate us into silence, have another thing coming.
Well, David and AP, I mean, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to say anything else that might be on your mind before we get to this clip, because I want to talk about if we talk about anything about the debate in terms of substance, I want to talk about this ratio. We've got to talk about it. So we'll get to that in maybe just a minute. But AP or David, if you guys have anything else to add before we get to that.
I just want to say one thing, which is, so Rabbi Schmuley, I really understand that you are being diplomatic, and you have repeatedly said during the debate and also afterwards that Mohammed Hijab is a disgrace to Islam, that he does not represent the best of it, and all of that. The issue here is there is a big problem. Mohammed Hijab is one of the most popular Muslim apologists on the internet at the moment. He has over 1 million YouTube subscribers, hundreds and thousands of Twitter followers. He is praised by Muslim scholars and debaters and others around the world, often called to whenever an opinion is needed from a Muslim or from a representative from a Muslim background. So the problem is he's not quite as unpopular, and he's not very fringe. In fact, you could say that when you look at the sphere of apologists for Islam, he is mainstream, and he's leading right now. And he says things, and hundreds or thousands of Muslims around the world follow what he says. He caused somebody to be beaten up because they had a wrong opinion, a fellow Muslim, because he had a wrong opinion about the Palestine conflict, about the Israel-Palestine conflict, for example. So the problem is, yes, he might not be in agreement with the loyalist Salafi strains or with the government of the United Arab Emirates and all that, but he is extremely influential, and his influence and his creed have to be taken seriously. And they do believe and preach things like punishing blasphemers, punishing apostates like myself, for example. I'm an ex-Muslim. I would deserve the death penalty and be killed, and they would be happily watching, according to his very best friend with whom he has been streaming and making videos forever. If the UK became majority Muslim, they would have to turn it into an Islamic state and then impose certain, laws of loyalty upon the entire population, and those who don't agree would then be violated, and so on. These are very, very serious threats. This is not just a fringe minority.
I completely agree with you. And if I'm in any way conveying the message that I don't take him seriously because I think that he's a buffoon, which he is, a street thug, which he is, an ignoramus, which he is. If I'm communicating that I don't take him seriously, it's specifically these clowns that are often the most dangerous. Listen, I never compare anyone to Hitler because the Holocaust was a unique crime in world history. But there's no question that Hitler was dismissed as a clown and that he was dismissed as uneducated. And he was able to rise specifically because everyone dismissed him as someone who would never gain power. Now, forget Mohammed Hijab for a second. Let's talk about people like Mohammed Hijab. Because these people are so embarrassing on TV and they employ such thuggery, it's so easy to dismiss them and say, like, what the hell is this guy even doing on TV? Oh, he's on TV because he has 1 million followers and the shows want to get ratings, especially now with all the ratings wars. And there's been such a bifurcation in global media that every show only has a tiny little morsel of followers. And if they can post 3-4 million views for a single show, I mean, my debate against him has 4 million views already. And his discussion with Piers Morgan had like 8 million views. If you can post numbers like that, you're doing well. I understand that we're going to elevate people like that, but we're going to dismiss them saying they're not a threat because they're embarrassing. But you are correct. To their base, they're not embarrassing. To their base, they're champions. To their base, they're sticking it to the man. I cannot tell you how many young Muslims who probably feel humiliated by the West wrote to me and said, you just can't handle how badly he beat you and how he stood up to you and how he didn't beat me at all. There's no objectivity there. I mean, this is a man who actually came forward and said to the British people on national TV that their greatest hero, the person who made sure they're speaking English today and not German, who defeated Hitler, Winston Churchill, was a war criminal. He actually said in the debate that Winston Churchill was a war criminal. It became a big story in the national media in Britain the day after. But to them, he's a hero. Now, why? Because a lot of the people in his base are themselves ignorant of history. A lot of them are definitely ignorant of Israel, definitely ignorant of the Middle Eastern history, and definitely ignorant of even British history. What do they know about Winston Churchill? Let alone, so I understand that to them, someone like Mohammed Hijab, who is an absolute clown and really is so easy to read in how he really has masculinity issues. I mean, I'm someone who writes books on relationships. He has deep-seated sexual masculinity issues that would just be a Freudian dream to analyze. Everything to him is sexual and perverse and masculinity. The way he spoke to, and I brought it up in the debate, to Ben Shapiro's wife, your husband's a coward. What he was really saying is that I'm a real man. Your husband's not a real man. I'm a real man. I mean, everything is sexual. Everything is a game of one-upmanship when it comes to masculinity. He has deep-seated psychosexual issues. But his base doesn't see that. So I understand that these guys are extremely dangerous. And by the way, it's actually fascinating to see how many of these demagogues had psychosexual issues. Hitler had huge psychosexual issues that have never been fully analyzed till this very day. I mean, Hitler had an affair with his own niece, who killed herself when she tried to break it off and he wouldn't allow her to. Let alone the weird relationship he had with Eva Braun, where he marries her, 36 hours before they both blow their brains out. There are so many stories like this of psychosexual issues leading to masculine thuggery. But I think that Mohammed Hijab especially fits into that category in a way that is so blindly transparent. And that makes him particularly dangerous, especially to women. I mean, what he espouses is a danger to women, and that's why my daughter especially was not going to cower before him. That's why she's been skewering him, because she will never be bullied by these masculine thugs.
Let's turn to
hey Cam, can I just because you asked a question, then just wanted to. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, Rabbi Schmuley. So you noticed this from a very brief interaction with Mohammed Hijab, as far as his general attitude and outlook towards women. But we've been seeing this for years. As AP pointed out, Mohammed Hijab was posted these sort of veiled threats of rape and torture towards AP's wife. But the same thing. I mean, he was sending us messages telling us that we should be giving each other golden showers and calling us gimps and saying slap each other in the face with all this stuff and sending us message after message after message. And he was doing this while people are watching these comments in the live stream, and people were saying, I'm having to look these things up on the internet because I don't know what these things are. And all these images are popping up when they're looking these things up. So yeah, very, very disturbed individual. But then he gets such a big following that people say, hey, let's get him to be the Islamic representative on this discussion. And just look at what happens. I mean, what an absolute embarrassment. He actually had an hour on an extremely popular show with a pretty balanced host who's even kind of bending over backwards to try and give the Palestinian spokesman as much time as they can to speak and so on. He's got this opportunity. He's speaking to one of the best known rabbis on the planet. I mean, I remember 20 years ago watching your debate on Faith Under Fire with Michael Brown. I saw you debate way back then a woman from American Atheist. I was at your debate with Michael Brown in New York City several years ago. And so he's got this awesome opportunity. And what's the takeaway? Well, it's, for me, it's given that opportunity in that limited amount of time, he goes after your daughter and your son and talks about vibrators and so on. And then his main overarching argument, this 100 to 1, is completely bogus. And it's like, this is the representative that everyone that his followers want right now. Yeah, I think it's pretty ridiculous. But so that's kind of a lead into what Cameron wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about that 100 to 1 ratio.
Yeah. We have to see that. We have to really look into that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let's play this clip. So
and I just want to say it's massively important because that was his only sort of real argument. That was his main argument. If that one doesn't work, he had nothing.
Yeah. This was the argument that he presented. And so I'll play two clips. So one of them is he's basically just sort of setting up the figure. And then in the second clip, he gives his source. So let's watch this first clip.
Well, here's the quandary for me morally, right?
Why is it a quandary, though?
I'll tell you why.
With Hamas, it's not a quandary.
I'll tell you why. Because in war, when you declare war, as Britain did with the Nazis...
100 to 1 ratio.
No,
100
of course,
to 1.
There are
combatant to non-combatant ratio.
A far higher number of children in Gaza, proportionate to population, than almost anywhere in the world.
Piers,
so when they go after Hamas...
Give me a chance.
Very sadly... Mohammed, let me finish.
This is becoming... No.
Very sadly...
You are the one who insisted on equal time. I never did, but you will not respect equal time.
I will come to you literally in 30 seconds.
He's going to ask you a question.
In 30 seconds, I'll come to you.
He's going to come to you afterwards.
Let me finish, please. I am in charge here, Mohammed. So my final point on this is, unfortunately, in war, civilians
100
get
to 1
killed.
ratio. 100 to 1 ratio.
Yes.
100 to 1 ratio.
Yes, they get...
Okay, so obviously this is his argument, 100 to 1 ratio. And then later on, Pierce asks him, what's the source for this? And I mean, this is important because Hijab has talked about in the past that it's important to get. Sorry, I'm trying to find the place here. It's important to get the primary source. I'm not able to find. Hang on, I'm having trouble.
We can tell you exactly what it says.
Yeah. Let's just do that. Yeah, because yeah. Let's do that instead. We don't have to go to that.
AP, you want to break down because we all went to the source and we found a couple of them, but they were reporting on what the IDF actually says. And this is amazing because if non-Muslims were to make a criticism of Islam or something like that, and we were to as massively misrepresent a source as Hijab just, we would never hear the end of it. We would be told for the rest of our lives that we are bigots somehow and we are deliberately deceptive and so on if we completely misrepresent a source like this. But AP, what's going on with this 100 to 1 thing?
Yeah, so what Mohammed Hijab did, and this was his main point, which he presented from beginning to end the entire time, was that there is a combatant to non-combatant ratio, or non-combatant to combatant of 100 to 1. So Israel killed 100 civilians and one Hamas member, on average. And he said that he referenced a Guardian article. He said he read this in the Guardian. It's also found in different sources. Some of them specify it more clearly, but the Guardian article especially, since he was referencing that, according to his claim, The Guardian article says that the IDF told them that they killed dozens of Hamas members so far. If that was true, it would be accurate. There were thousands of civilian deaths and only dozens of Hamas members dead. The article, however, doesn't say such a thing. What the article says immediately in the title is Israeli airstrikes on Gaza have killed dozens of Hamas commanders, according to the IDF, not members, commanders. There's a huge difference here.
Yeah, so the absurdity here is Hijab reads this, and again, it's right in the title. It's dozens of commanders, and it says about 60. And he even says, when he's arguing, he says, "Oh, 60. We'll just give you we'll give the benefit of the doubt, and we'll 100 to 10,000. So it's 101 ratio for every Hamas member that you're actually killing. You're killing 100 civilians, and no, it doesn't say anything like that. They're talking about the number of Hamas commanders that they killed. And so the number of Hamas members, the general Hamas fighters that they've killed, would be significantly higher. And so the entire 100-to-1 ratio is based on Mohammed Hijab literally not being able to interpret a headline correctly, not let alone the rest of the article. He can't get the headline right.
Let's not give him the benefit of the doubt because he doesn't deserve it. He's a liar and he's a fabricator. First of all,
that's true.
To say that he couldn't interpret it, of course he could. He just lied. He is a liar. He is a fabricator. If he told me it were nighttime outside right now, I would absolutely go and check because I don't believe a thing that he says. I'm not even sure what kind of Muslim he is. I'm not sure of anything. I actually think he's a very shallow attention seeker, and I think he misrepresents Islam. And I bet if he was in a debate with a real Islamic scholar, the scholar would wipe the floor with him. So I don't know what he is. But let's just go through this for a second. So first of all, you're showing me that the source says commanders, and he ignored that. He ignored it intentionally. Now, secondly, the Guardian, even if that word wasn't there, the Guardian is one of the least credible sources on Israel imaginable. They are known for their unbridled hostility to Israel and have been called on endless falsehoods about Israel over the decades. And I know many of them myself. Number three, no one knows civilian casualties in Gaza because Hamas runs the health ministry and their numbers cannot be trusted. Now, you would think that the Red Cross would know something, but the Red Cross has failed miserably, like all the other international organizations, the NGOs, because they have all given Hamas carte blanche to run Gaza, to run UNRWA, the UN. They've all embarrassed themselves by allowing Hamas to steal all the money, misrepresent facts, control the schools, control the hospitals. Al-Shifa, we now have the proof, was a military base, but who allowed it? Who paid for it? Al-Shifa was paid for by international donations. Why was it never monitored? So we don't know how many civilians have died either. And in the fog of war, these things are not going to be known. So the whole point was an absurdity. But the most important point in rebutting that, knowing that the numbers were fraudulent, is that the mere argument that more civilians are going to die as collateral casualties, collateral damage, to even surgical strikes is not itself a moral argument, because no one wants civilians to die. When you have an enemy that embeds themselves specifically within a civilian population and literally fires rockets from nurseries and from kindergartens, from people's homes, of course, when you try to eliminate that threat, and President Biden made it clear that Israel's allowed or should press this military advantage until such time as Hamas can no longer kill Israelis, then civilians are going to die. That's a tragedy. And every single one of those civilians is on Israel. Now, the question then becomes, but how many? How many will you allow to die when they're embedded? That's an almost impossible question to answer because it all depends on the level of the threat. Now, Harry Truman, this is all just a generation ago, 2 generations ago, Harry Truman made a calculation in the summer of 1945 that he was prepared to allow 75,000 Japanese to die in an instant, and then 100,000 to die in Nagasaki in an instant in order to save, say, 1 million American men, servicemen who would have to invade the Japanese islands. And we can debate this till this very day, but that was his calculation. Was it going to be 1 million? We don't know. He could only say that based on the best military advice that he had at the time. Now, and the other point is, of course, that the British, now we have much more precision munitions, we have GPS, laser-guided missiles, etc. But even in the Second World War, when Churchill did carpet bomb Dresden, did carpet bomb Hamburg and Cologne and Essen and Berlin, and the Americans, even before they dropped atomic bombs, they did carpet bomb most of Japan. the British did nighttime raids where they didn't know what they couldn't see a thing. The Americans were doing daytime precision bombing because they thought it was more moral and they wanted to go after military targets. Malcolm Gladwell wrote an amazing book about this called The Bomber Mafia that's really worth reading. But Churchill dismissed that. He said, I'm going to break the will of the enemy to fight. And he defined the enemy as the civilian population because that's how Hitler also defined it through his Battle of Britain. Now, we can debate whether that was right or not. We can't debate Churchill's legacy as the greatest statesman of the 20th century, which is universally recognized except by Mohammed Hijab. So, does Israel kill too many civilians? Absolutely not. Israel loses so many soldiers by doing surgical strikes. Number two, if Israel wanted to kill civilians, they would have carpet bombed and flattened Gaza in 2007 when it first became a Hamas stronghold and they first started firing rockets. Israel has not done that. You know, I'm going to have to go in a moment, gentlemen, and I really enjoyed this. In fact, I even be prepared to continue it. But I want to just tell one story. I went to the killing fields just outside of Gaza right after the attacks. I was there 4 or 5 days after the attacks. I saw the blood congeal to 3 inches. I saw the knives. I saw the Jewish bodies had all been removed. The terrorists, a lot of the bodies were there reeking, and they were left there on purpose in order to determine who they were, what kind of intelligence could be, but you can't leave the victims like lying like that, of course. But what I saw, I'll never forget. And I've seen some horrible things in my life. I was in Haiti in 2011, 2 days after the earthquake, where 250,000 bodies were crushed under concrete. And still what I saw outside of Gaza was much more horrific because of all the blood, et cetera, et cetera. How anyone can ask a country to allow that to happen again, that's why we Jews say never again. Never again is not a pledge. It's not a promise. It is now an action that the IDF is carrying out. And the IDF will, of course, limit civilian casualties. As I said in the debate, every single Arab Palestinian child who dies in Gaza is A, the fault of Hamas, and B, is someone that we, the Jewish people, mourn. We Jews believe, you mentioned some really good people who I've debated. I've had fiery debates with atheists like Christopher Hitchens, who was easily the hardest person that I've ever debated. And I developed a deep love for him. And I mourn his loss till today. Michael Brown, we had killer debates, but he's one of my dearest friends in the whole world. He's a truly great scholar. But all of these people, there was a decency to them. They maintained their positions. The debates at times were very heated. And I debated Richard Dawkins. But for the most part, these were people who believed passionately in their subjects. There was decency to them, and they were scholarly. Mohammed Hijab is the opposite. He's a street thug. He's a liar. He's an abomination to his religion. I don't think he really believes any of this. I think he's more afraid of the street violence and the people that he appeals to. I think he's terrified of them. That's why he wouldn't shake my hand. He knew how bad he would look if he didn't shake my hand. And he was like trying to talk to me beforehand. He wouldn't do it on camera because he's probably afraid that they would kill him for it. I wouldn't be surprised if he thinks that he'd find his head chopped off if he had shake my hand. So the bully is always bullied, and he is a bully. But gentlemen, I've really enjoyed this. I'm so sorry that the timing didn't work out, but I'm glad. And your analysis is spot on. I did not know a lot about your show. I apologize for that, but now I've learned. And to the extent that the word Christian, and I don't know enough about the show, so again, please forgive my ignorance. I've been traveling nonstop, but I wanted to accommodate the show. To the extent that the word Christian appears in the title, and this is a Christian show, I just want you to know that the Christians are our dearest brothers who have stood up for Israel in a manner that we Jews will never, ever, ever forget. And God bless my Christian brothers and sisters. I've never seen support like we've gotten, especially from the evangelical Christians. But let me also say to all my Muslim brothers and sisters who are watching, Islam took in the Jews when we were kicked out of Catholic Spain in 1492, Catholic Portugal in 1498. We love our Muslim brothers and sisters. Israel, my son is fighting, 2 sons right now, to defend 1.8 million Muslim Arab Israeli citizens to protect their lives from Hamas, whose rockets could kill them as well. We love our Muslim brothers and sisters. We just hate the Islamists because they want to kill you as much as they want to kill them. Hamas is the worst. And champions of Hamas, liars, abominables, sexual weirdo people who pervert their arguments based on sexual innuendo and embarrass us like Mohammed Hijab really need to be silenced. And with that, gentlemen, I'm really going to have to go, and God bless you. And thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
You so much.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
All right. So, there is still a lot to discuss. It really depends on how much you guys are up for, because you've already done a review of the debate. There are a couple things that I wanted to touch on if you guys are cool with hanging out and
he did say he would like to continue, and he liked it. So I guess we can stay in touch, and we can have him back again at a better time. I would also like to invite him to specifically talk about Islam with him.
No, I don't think. I mean, this debate, just because there wasn't too much substance to discuss, like I don't think it'd be worthwhile like talking about this particular thing again.
Yeah, but we could address something
love to,
close to it.
For sure.
Yeah, the idea is it just looks like Rabbi Schmuley has interacted with a lot of nice Muslims over the years, and so he's getting his impression of Islam from that, and that we've been interacting with some different Muslims, and we find some different things in their sources. I think sort of what mainstream Sunni Islam actually teaches is significantly worse than Rabbi Schmuley is aware of. There are exceptions, like you've got Sufis, and you have some Quran only Muslims who reject a lot of the things in the Hadith, like Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl and so on. You've got Sufis, you've got the Ismaili Shias and so on, like Khalil Andani, who would reject a lot of the things we would bring up from the Hadith. So you do have some different perspectives, but yeah, AP brought it up that hijab is pretty darn mainstream as far as lots of the Muslim world is concerned. So yeah, it would be interesting to have a future discussion where we actually go through some of the sources and so on. But yeah,
I actually prepared some things to talk to him specifically about Islam, including, and I briefly mentioned it to you before the show, like Maimonides. He's very very popular in Jewish scholarship and history, and he had some very harsh words about Muhammad and about how Muslims have treated the Jews. In fact, something that they very rarely mention, he says in his letter, it's called Epistle to Yemen. He says that these people, referring to the Arab Muslims, have treated us worse than any other people treated us before, and he calls Muhammad a madman and an imbecile, and I don't know. He blasts Islam basically for what it is and how it is, and I'm not entirely sure if I should bring that up directly as it is, as bluntly, and ask him what he thinks about this. So, considering that one of the greatest, Jewish personalities in history was so critical of Islam and didn't agree with him at all, with his idea that Islam is actually a very nice religion. But yeah, we didn't get the chance.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, David, to your point about there are different. Obviously different denominations within Islam, just like there are different denominations within Christianity. And that's actually one of the things that makes it sort of difficult to argue against like an entire religion. It's like, how do you give an argument against Islam, like, full stop? Like, how do you prove that Islam is false? And atheists will want to know how they can prove that Christianity is false, especially those that maybe grew up in Christian cultures and just are surrounded by Christians. And it's actually pretty difficult because you've got to basically look at the beliefs of the religious believer in question. And there's all sorts of different denominational backgrounds, and there are Quran onlyists, there are others that Sunnis that accept most of the Hadith. And it's kind of difficult to come up with like
It's quite straightforward, to be honest. I mean, you can easily target and destroy it very, very simply. One of the things you could ask is, where does the sun go at night? And then it's over. Yeah.
Yeah. So Muslims have the Quran in common, the Hadiths and so on. But yeah, it's basically all you need to do is clarify. Okay, when I'm talking about Islam right now, I'm talking about the Islam as it is affirmed by roughly 80 to 90% of the world's population, mainstream sort of Sunni Islam. And you can clarify and you can say, so there are other groups out there who would reject a lot of this information from the commentaries and from the Hadiths and so on. But and even within Sunni Islam, you have tons of people who don't know what's in the Hadith, so they don't even know that they're supposed to affirm certain things. So you can't say they actually believe it until they find out, they find out what it actually says. But again, the main issue that we're talking about is, as AP said, hijab is not some fringe outlier or something like that. That is kind of what, if you study the Sunni Islamic sources, you can disagree with them about whether he's wise in the way he behaves or whether he should be bringing up, vibrators and lube and stuff like this in the middle of the debate. So you could argue, you could argue about that sort of thing. But as far as the, him flexing on everyone and the points he makes, that's kind of the impression you get from Islam. And by the way, there's a reason he got so popular so quickly. There's a reason Ali Dawah got so popular so quickly. There's a reason Daniel Hakikachu came out of nowhere and started saying, "Yep, that's right. We're gonna have child brides. We don't care if they're 5, and we're gonna beat our wives." And there's a reason these guys become popular. There's an entire Muslim world out there that looks at Western academics and Western representatives of Islam just going, they don't represent us. That's not what the Prophet said. That's not what the Prophet said. That's not what the Quran says. And so someone like Hijab comes along, Ali Dawah, Daniel Hakikachu, these guys come along, they go, finally, someone who is standing up for true Islam. So yeah, it can be difficult to clarify exactly who, what version of Islam you're responding to, but again, there's a reason these guys are put forward as the.
There was actually when the rabbi mentioned something, I immediately had this thought of no, and I wanted to jump in when he said about Mohammed Hijab that he is at Speaker's Corner, and he said there, he discussed there about 5-year-old girls being able to have sex, and then he said no Muslim would ever agree with that, and I immediately thought of Daniel Hakikachu, how he directly answered IP's question about child marriage. He said you could, as early as 4 years old or 3 years old, or even if the parents allow it, 11 months old, if there are signs of maturity, you could marry and have sex. IP asked him about taking sex slaves, and if it is okay in Islam to take a sex slave when she's how old was it? 7 years old. And she shows signs of maturity. Daniel Hakikachu said, yes, any age. You could take at any age a girl that shows signs of maturity as a sex slave. So 4, 3, 7, doesn't matter. These are, of course, things to bring up and to then discuss. And I don't know, we really have to expose the reality that these things are not just fringe, not just completely outlandish, and that Muslims will not, turn away when they hear this stuff. On the contrary, we have lots of people who hear this stuff from Mohammed Hijab, from Daniel Hakikachu, and they celebrate them. And they say they have yes, you show it to them why there is nothing wrong with child marriage. Amazing, brother, good job, and so on. This is the reality.
Yeah, and it's the reason it's such a problem is we had this sort of, again, the previous generation of da'is, people like, Shabir Ali and Jamal Badawi and these guys who, they come along and they're easy to interact with, they're friendly and so on. They would shake your hands, unlike, Mohammed Hijab. So a lot of people have interacted with these guys and have been hearing these guys for years when terrorism is brought up to the previous generation of da'is. Terrorism, death penalty for apostasy, these kinds of things. The previous generation would say, no, that's not true. And lots of the street da'is back then, no, you're making this up. What? Muhammad and a 9-year-old girl? Come on, that's total nonsense. And so there's still lots of people in the world who were interacting with that generation of da'is. I don't know that when this new generation comes along and starts saying, yes, we're going to kill apostates. Yes, we're going to subjugate the world. Yes, we're going to go door to door, offering you the chance to either convert, pay the jizya, or be executed. Yes, we're in favor of child marriage and beating our wives into some. Of course, we're in favor of all that. The people who are interacting with the previous generation look at these guys going, oh, come on, these guys are nuts. These guys are nuts, man. These guys are fringe lunatics. And it's just not like that. These guys they're becoming popular because they are defending mainstream Sunni Islam from the sources, and it's not a pretty sight. And you can actually understand why people would want to think that, like psychologically, you want to think that these guys are fringe, so you don't have to think, oh, we're actually dealing with a lot of people who think the same way. But it's a reality that we need to confront, that the number of people who think these things is significantly larger than most people in the West understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, Rabbi did mention that, the sort of personal anecdotes as he's been walking around London and stuff, and everyone said, that they were so happy that Muhammad lost that debate and stuff. And so I think that there are anecdotes like that, but probably if we were just looking at the numbers, I think total numbers, there'd be a whole lot more that are in support of that type of
you guys are just being Islamophobic.
No, you're being Islamophobic. Oh, I just want to point out, because I see people saying, "Oh, the rabbi came late and he left early." No, just to be clear, he originally said he could join He originally told Cameron he could join for half an hour. So we knew his time was limited and stuff, and then he ended up staying on for an hour. So yeah, this was not him. This was not him dipping. He had limited time available.
Yeah, and
he was also live streaming on Instagram, by the way, while he was talking to us. I just saw that.
Wow. Yeah, we probably. I mean, I should be paying more attention to the live chat. We did actually have some super chats, so we'll get to those in just a second. But I did want to mention just a couple things going back to what we were discussing earlier on the ratio point. There was, as I was doing some research on this question, because I wanted to know like what is like the actual ratio. And there's not a whole lot out right now currently. AP, maybe you can help me out with this. But currently, I mean, because what you can't do is you can't do like a study on like the current events that are happening over there. You can't like go in and actually like try to get the details and put it into like a peer-reviewed study and stuff. But there are peer-reviewed studies of older operations or older bombings and stuff that occurred. So I found a study from 2021. It was on the Operation Guardians of the Walls, and the ratio there, it looks like they had 236 casualties. Yeah, and so the ratio there was about 1-to-1, basically, between civilians and the Hamas. So that's like an actual like meticulous study of something that was, it wasn't reports from one side or the other. It was a study that was done in a peer-reviewed journal. But then there was
that's a better ratio than like World War II, because it got brought up when everyone was talking about proportion. The response should be proportional and so on, and you need to keep civilians out of it. And we looked it up, and it was like 2/3 of the casualties of World War II were civilian casualties, and that's in a time when you had armies going out into a field against another army and then blowing each other away with tanks and so on. Those are all soldiers and so on, and yet the real outcome, as far as once you factor in bombings and so on, and people being sent to death camps, it's about 2/3 of the casualties were civilian casualties. So
it's actually surprising to me that Piers Morgan, who is familiar with the conflicts, with the news and all of that, didn't find it extremely absurd when Mohammed Hijab kept repeatedly saying 100-to-1 non-combatant to combatant ratio. I mean, it sounds extremely unrealistic and insane.
Well, so here's another thing:
100 non-combatants to one combatant. It's just.
Well, so to sort of make matters worse, though, there was a point during the debate, because I did have to watch this debate a couple times. There was a point where he was saying that, like, I think he's even used the term, like, obviously way more non-combatants have died than combatants. He didn't use those exact terms, but he did say that, like, on the civilian side, there were way more civilian deaths than there were combatant deaths. And he was treating this as though it was just like, common knowledge, or just like everyone knows this. And I'm just wondering, like, what source is he basing that on? I mean, I don't really have anything to.
I would predict that the numbers of civilians who are killed are going to be significantly higher. If Hamas is hindering people from leaving, and buildings are getting blown up and so on, I'm guessing you're getting a lot of civilian casualties. But yeah, I mean, Rabbi Schmuley was right. You're not going to know how are you going to find the numbers, because Hamas is the one who reports on the numbers, and you can't trust Hamas when they're reporting things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, me and AP were talking about this on earlier live streams, that the very idea that you're going to say, oh, okay, here's how many people you guys killed, therefore here's how many people we are going to kill in response, and here's the percentage of civilian casualties that we can allow, and if that, if we don't get those numbers right to even the balance, then we just have to sit back and do nothing. That's ridiculous. And we pointed out, like, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and destroyed 19 ships, the goal wasn't, oh, now we have to go out and destroy 19 of their ships. It's not. It's no. Your job as the American military is to destroy their ability to destroy any more of your ships. That's your job in war. And so if you have a terrorist attack, whether it's 9/11 or October 7th or whatever it is, your job as the military is to make sure they cannot do that to your people again. It's not to sort of even the score. You're not saying, oh, you killed 1,200, therefore we're going to go kill 1,200. It's, we want to end your ability to kill 1,200 people again. So we want to make sure you can't do that. And then you can figure out exactly how you're going to do that. But the goal is not, oh, let's go in there and even the score. That's not what war is.
So on the note of,
go ahead.
On the note of proportionality, that was another thing that I was researching. And how do you actually compare? Like you said, I mean, is it just like a 1-to-1? Do you just, like, if 1,300 of your people die, do you like just go and try to match that? Like, on the question of proportionality, so there actually have been studies on this with actual, like, ethicists and philosophers. So I'm going to read a quote from this post from an ethicist that I was reading. It says, in a fascinating study published in 2020 in the European Journal of International Law, Daniel Statman, professor of philosophy at Haifa University, and colleagues did just that. Their study sought to test the proportionality judgments of experts working on the ethics and or the laws of affirmed conflict. Sampling almost 300 experts in 11 countries, the study examined whether they could provide reliable guidance for solving real-world dilemmas concerning the legitimacy of collateral harm that results from military attacks. The results regarding, for example, the collateral harm produced by bombing an enemy's headquarters demonstrated the absence of reasonable convergence among experts. In other words, like the experts, like the moral experts or the philosophers, the ethicists, there is no consensus on what is proportional. And so what this guy suggests, this ethicist suggests, is that instead of worrying about like numbers, proportionality, and trying to weed that out, instead he offers a sort of fundamental moral principle to operate off of, and that is then how we can go and judge someone like Israel. So here's that fundamental moral principle. In pursuing a just military goal, substantial efforts must be made to minimize civilian casualties. And so that's like, to me, I think that makes a lot of sense when we're thinking about proportionality. Like as a moral principle, basically it's just saying like you've got to minimize civilian casualties as much as you can. And then what we can do then is ask, has Israel tried to limit casualties? And it's like a fact that they will give advanced warning to areas that they're about to bomb. And so then the question would be, is that substantial enough? Is it enough to try to limit the civilian casualties? But I think that's a more reasonable metric to use. Are they doing their best to avoid civilian casualties instead of trying to cross-reference numbers?
So the thing is, you're right. I mean, it makes sense that the point in a war, especially if you are actually declaring war and you are bombing an entire place, a country, a nation, whatever it is, because you want to reach a certain goal, and that goal here in this war is very clear. Israel said, this has to end. We will not endure this any longer. This will result in the complete destruction and elimination of Hamas and the release of all hostages. There is no other alternative. So they want to make Hamas surrender, submit, and release all the hostages. On that path, whatever the goal of the war is, legitimate nations or parties to a war will not say, okay, we can kill so many people. After that number, we just can't go on. That's not a thing. and the side that is waging the war does not have such a responsibility to watch out for the numbers. So Israel responded to the atrocities on October 7th, of which more and more images and footage emerges, by declaring war and then saying for weeks, we will bomb and operate severely in the northern part of Gaza. So we urged the population to evacuate and to go south. Now, they never said they will exclusively operate in northern Gaza, but it was made very clear that they will be operating in northern Gaza, and staying there is simply not safe. If you stay, you will not be safe. You might die in an airstrike, in shootings and whatever it is. If I was a citizen of that state, and something as horrible as October 7 was done to people that I know and love, I would expect my state to act exactly the way Israel has acted so far, to give warnings to the people, to the non-combatants, and then to start bombing and attacking and fighting until the other side completely surrenders. It is true that Israel is aware that the people who were told to evacuate are not all evacuating. Many of them are being stopped. Many of them refuse to evacuate. They say, I'm going to stay here no matter what, with their children. And then their children die in an airstrike. And you could say, maybe if Israel was extra holy and extra, extra good, they would maybe make an effort to then make really sure that no civilian dies. But after a certain point, it is no longer Israel's responsibility to save people who were warned from dying. They did their job. They warned. They said, get out of there. We are going to operate. And now they are operating. And lots of people are dying. Lots of civilians are dying. They are not supposed to be dying. If they listened to what the IDF said, to what Israel said, they wouldn't be dying.
Yeah, so AP pointed out, like, Israel's got two main jobs here, and these are, I would say, indisputably their jobs. One, you got to protect your people from Hamas, and so you have to destroy Hamas. You just saw what they did. You know what they're about. You know what their ultimate goals are. This group, to protect your own people, this group has to be crushed. To get your hostages back. So you have to do those. If you're saying, oh no, well we can't do these things because we might injure civilians and so on. Okay, that's not how war works. You have a job to do. You have to protect your own people. But notice once you make those your goals, I agree with the point you were making, Cameron, that you need to do everything you can to minimize civilian casualties. But notice it's other people seem to bear the brunt of the responsibility for there being these civilians there. I mean, when Israel warns you, if Hamas really cared about the civilians, they'd be helping the civilians head south instead of stopping them from moving south and blocking roads and so on. And then you have 49 Muslim majority nations. The areas surrounded, they share a border. Gaza shares a border with Egypt. Very easy to get civilians. If protecting civilians is the goal, and you just want to protect the civilians, very easy to get them across that border, get them completely out of harm's way. You could have nothing there but Hamas jihadis sitting there in Gaza right now. No one wants to do that. So Hamas is saying we're not letting these guys go. Other Muslim countries, Egypt saying we're not letting anybody out of there. And so, okay, Israel has to destroy Hamas and they have to get their hostages back. And you're saying, but we're going to make sure that there's a bunch of civilians right there in the mix. Okay, then a bunch of civilians are going to die. That's kind of on you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, not to necessarily disagree, but just to kind of clarify. So basically the moral principle is, would be you've got to make substantial efforts to minimize civilian casualties. So it's not that you've got to do everything, it's that you've got to make substantial efforts, because it's got to be attainable, it's got to be realistic in terms of like warfare and stuff. And so,
and by the way, Cameron, I have no objections when people say, hey, Israel shouldn't have done this thing, or they should have held back here, they shouldn't have been. I have no problem with that, but I mean, again, you could say that about any war. You could say, "Hey, you shouldn't have done that. Exactly. You shouldn't have bombed that. You should have been more careful here." it's more kind of a big picture thing. You have your job, and you have a
Right.
group that keeps civilians around them because they want to maximize civilian casualties so that they can basically turn the rest of the world against you. So as far as specifics, yeah, there are all kinds of situations where I hear something that happened in that war, and I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. I would not have done, if I were Israel, I would not have done that. If I were the IDF, I would not have done that, and so on. Again, at the end of the day, it's big picture. They've got a job to do to protect their people. It's in a kind of nightmarish situation. I brought this up in previous live streams, but I wish I brought it up to Rabbi Schmuley because he might know. I saw an Israeli speaker say this in an interview, and then I couldn't find it afterwards to know who it was. But he said that the situation for Israelis, he said it's like there's someone with a gun and he wants to shoot your kid, and you've got a gun too, and you don't want him to shoot your kid, but he's hiding behind his kid. You don't want to shoot his kid, but he's hiding behind his kid and about to shoot your kid. What do you do? Do you shoot him to stop him from shooting your kid, knowing that you're going to hit his kid? Or do you say, I can't do it, and you let him shoot your kid? They're pointing out it's a nightmare situation. We don't want to shoot his kid. We don't want to do that. Islam tends to put people in a situation where you have no good option. I have this terrible option and that terrible option, and I have to kind of pick which option is less terrible. And then when I pick the option that I regard as less terrible, everyone runs around the world going, look, they did this terrible thing. They did this terrible thing. Well, you limited my options to terrible, terrible, and terrible, and terrible, and terrible. I picked the one I regarded as least terrible. And they say, look at this terrible thing. Well, no matter what I did, you would have said it was terrible.
I shouldn't have picked terrible.
Yeah, you picked terrible. Yeah. Terrible friends.
So how would you guys feel about checking out some of these super chats that have been sent in?
I would feel amazing.
Let's do some super chats.
Let's do it.
We call them hey, we call them super shekels now, just so you know, because people keep saying we're paid by Hamas, so everyone calls them super shekels now.
You mean by
they say you're paid by
Israel,
Hamas?
By Israel, not Hamas.
Okay.
You just said Hamas.
You said people are saying that you're paid by. Okay. All right. So this one I'm not really sure. It's like hardly in English. DW and AP ever Tate on Piers Morgan recent tally?
Oh yeah, asking about the Andrew Tate interview. Yeah, we'll be covering that. We'll be covering that on Walker
Okay.
Shows. Okay. We're not going to let Tate. We're not going to let Tate slide on an interview. This guy's a gold. He is a bigger gold mine.
He lied and lied and lied and lied, and Piers really spent time talking to him about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Like, who is Andrew Tate? Why would you talk to him about the Israel-Palestine conflict?
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Like, he's just like looking for opportunities to bring that subject up with anyone that he interviews. Like Andrew Tate
even with
is
a
not
sex trafficker, like with a human trafficker, you talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Wow, very strange.
Yeah. My next guest is the champion of the lover boy method and has pimped lots of women. And what is your perspective on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Well, you know, Pierce, I was sitting around.
Do you have any sunglasses you can put on?
No, I can't do it, man.
Oh.
I was sitting around minding my business, encouraging young men to be strong, when Mossad came in and arrested me and threw me in jail because of my support for the Palestinians. That's what happened. Ask any of my fans. Since I just said it now, they'll all believe me.
That's good.
Who has? Here's a question: who has more diehard fans, Andrew Tate or Mohammed Hijab?
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, he has more, but yeah, they both have pretty diehard fans who are have been conditioned into mindlessly agreeing with the most recent thing the person said, even if it completely contradicts something he said a year ago. But guess what? Muhammad did the exact same thing. The verses in the Quran about abrogation, those were revealed after someone came along, after the polytheists started coming up to the Muslims going, how come this guy tells you a rule one day and then 2 weeks later he gives you a different rule and he's saying these are all from God and you guys don't notice a problem? And that's when Muhammad received the verses saying, oh yes, because Allah abrogates earlier revelations and so on. So yeah, you can apparently program people to just say, hey, whatever the most recent thing our guy said is, that's what it is. If it completely contradicts what he said a week ago, doesn't matter. If it completely contradicts what he says A week from now doesn't matter, because a week from now we'll just believe the new thing he says.
Stop being Islamophobic.
You're Islamophobic. But I'm talking about tape.
All right, next question. Best contemporary Muslim analytic philosophers.
Are you joking?
I'm gonna have to defer to you guys.
Never heard of that. No.
Yeah, I wasn't terribly. I had to check because Khalil pointed out a book that was from a conference on the problem of evil. It's like Muslim perspectives on it, and I got the book. I haven't started reading it yet, but
I did actually interview a Muslim academic recently on the channel.
Was he analytic? Was he analytic? Because I'm not sure how many of the guys would be analytic philosophers.
I think he's analytic. He wrote a response to William Lane Craig's objections to Islam, and that got published. I think he's analytic. His first name is Zain, and I think his last name is Ali. Zain Ali. I'm trying to search for his name. Yeah, Zain Ali. So that's other than Khalil Andani. Like, is Khalil a analytic philosopher?
Nobody cares about
Khalil. Not that I know of.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a Neoplatonist. What are you talking about?
True.
I heard of Farfour. He's one of the scholars, but I'm not sure.
Okay, let's move on.
Farfour is probably their best.
Question from Joshua Wooden. Cameron, can you watch the recent?
Cameron, can I ask you? Did you get into photography because your name is Cameron and it's like a camera or something?
Yeah, that's how it happened.
That's how it happened. I was like,
he decided,
you know what?
He's like, I could start a business called Cameron's Cameras.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it.
You're not, unfortunately, the first one to ask me that and make that.
It's very obvious. It's very obvious.
That connection. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, AP, do you drive a van because your name is Ridvan?
Yes.
Okay, this one, Joshua Wooden. Cameron, can you watch the recent modern day debate with T-Jump about demons? Cover your ears, AP. T-Jump says a lot of popular atheist talking points, calling us quacks. So what's funny, I did actually watch some of that. And T-Jump did his usual T-Jump thing where he basically says, oh, well, you don't have a consensus on this, so therefore I win, and the debate's over. And unless you can basically get everything that you claim published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, then everything that you say is garbage and shouldn't be taken seriously. And that was basically the only argument that I heard from T-Jump. The other guy was attempting, but I guess I don't want to get too much in the weeds. I don't want to get too off topic, but yes, I did watch some of it. Feel free to share any thoughts.
No, I haven't seen it. Not exactly the sort of thing we'd be interested in watching. I'll just say, if you're gonna rule out demonic activity and influence, how do you explain how dumb atheist arguments are? I can't attribute it to mere human stupidity. It's beyond that.
So someone, ironically, I guess this isn't necessarily ironic, but in the comment section of that debate, there was the highest comment was something like, demons are real because just look at T-Jump's haircut. His barber is a demon. Something like that. That's pretty good. Okay, Joshua says, can I find what words are not allowed in super chats? Won't let me say what I can. Joshua, I don't know how to help you out with that problem.
That's a rough one, and I have to say it seems to vary from like person to person. Like the algorithm is deciding who can say what, because I've had it where I'll try to post a super chat and it doesn't go through, and I'll take out a word and I'll put it through and it won't go. And eventually I'll take out certain words and replace them with other words, and then it goes through. But then I'll see, so I know exactly what word was causing the algorithm to not let me post it. But then I'll see other people post the word. So I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt AP is gonna be much help on that.
I've no idea what you're talking about.
Son K, why was Pierce so biased in favor of hijab? I don't know if we talked about this on stream, but maybe we did. But I think Pierce is trying to what's the right term? Appease or cater to the pro-Palestine crowd, and so he's like he wants. I think he kind of seeks approval. He wants to be affirmed by all sorts of different groups, and so I think that's probably
to be honest,
why he wants approval from.
To be honest, my view is just that he can't handle Mohammed Hijab, and he just can't keep Mohammed Hijab under control because Mohammed Hijab is very, very barely controllable, and he feels intimidated by him, which is why he also compensates for that by, immediately shutting down Rabbi Schmuley when he says something, but he can't do the same thing with Mohammed Hijab. I think he's really intimidated.
There's also the issue in that the sort of instant psychological conditioning does have an impact. I mean, notice when Hijab is claiming to be a victim, oh, it's 2-on-1, it's 2-on-1. The tendency of a host is going to be to show that it's not 2-on-1, and no, I'm being balanced. But then you have to sort of cater to that person more and more. And so I'm sure Pierce has been getting bombarded with like every criticism you can have of Hamas or anyone else. Oh, you're in favor of genociding all of Palestine and so on. So you keep trying to make it as clear as possible. No, guys, I'm not in favor of that sort of thing. And so you get to a point where you're walking on eggshells. What really happens is if you keep this up long enough, you end up with situations like the grooming gangs in the UK, where guys can be raping, drugging, pimping young girls, and no one will say a word about it. The police and politicians and judges and prosecutors won't say a word about it because they're all terrified of being called racist and so on. And so I think there's some of that going on with journalists. You say one word, you get bombarded with, oh, you're racist and you're in favor of genocide.
What is your problem with grooming gangs, man?
Oh, not really. I think it's a great idea. Like, we should all have one.
You almost sounded like you were doing a JP impersonation toward the end there.
Just
get a pen pal.
Not me. He's talking about you, man. Not me.
He's talking about you.
No, I was talking about you, David. But
AP. I don't impersonate Jordan Peterson anymore. AP because AP crushes me.
Yeah. How about no?
All right, another super chat. This one from Radical Moderate, and this one is addressed to the rabbi, but he's not here. But we can maybe offer some comments. Okay, so
he's in our hearts. We can probably answer.
He's in our hearts.
I will offer my response as Rabbi Schmuley. Go ahead.
Can you ask the rabbi, when this war is over and his sons come home, Lord willing, can his IDF soldiers go to the UK and take hijab up on his MMA challenge? I think everyone would love to see that.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think any actual soldier would just crush hijab. I saw. There's a video of like a guy who's like 130 years old gives hijab a tap on the jaw, and he looked like he was completely discombobulated.
130, really?
The guy was really old. He was like Joe Biden 30 years from now taps hijab on the jaw, and he almost goes down and has to be basically propped up and led out of there.
All right, next one, Alzia. As David said, I'm glad Rabbi wasn't silenced because Muslims regard subjugation and intimidation as a victory, and people like Piers are too soft.
Lots of people said that this was the first time that Mohammed Hijab encountered somebody matching his energy, and who was just responding to him very much, loudly and in kind. So it was actually interesting to watch that, because lots of people, especially if they are not familiar with Mohammed Hijab, would be confused and not quite as responsive. But I don't know, Rabbi Schmuley, he handled it quite well under the circumstances.
Yeah, it's a situation where, because as we pointed out earlier, people who are just coming along looking at this going, oh my goodness, Rabbi Schmuley, his rabbi's yelling, what's going on here? The whole thing is a disaster, and kind of not realizing, all right, you have two options. If Pierce isn't going to regulate on this, and you kind of have to decide how you're going to do it, you could just sort of sit back and let Hijab speak over you the entire time, or you can stand up to him, and it's going to be a mess. And Rabbi Schmuley went with, okay, it's going to be a mess, but I can't just let him sit here and say all this stuff and
True.
and not respond.
True.
So a couple things. So I do have to just say thank you so much to everyone that is sending in super chats. We don't often get this many in, and so I want to just say thank you guys. Thank you to you guys for sending these in. Thank you guys. And then secondly, there is actually a surprise at the end of this stream. So after we get through these super chats, we're going to talk about something very fun. Well, fun is probably the wrong word, but we're going to talk about something. But I'm going to keep it under wraps for right now.
I hope it's not about lubricants and kinds of stuff like that. That's
yeah, special discount code.
That was actually amazing.
That was hilarious, and I actually I wish I had pointed out, Cameron. You should you should convey the idea. If Rabbi Schmuley's daughter really wants to enrage hijab, find a way to continue promoting her business off of like some sort of situation with, hey, if you were repulsed by Mohammed Hijab, be sure to come over and support the shop and so on. And then for her to say, hey, look how much money we made 2 months ago. Look how much money we made now. Thank you, Mohammed Hijab, for getting us endless trunks of money with what you did. That for some reason that enraged when they've done things in the past where they like Hijab posted a tutorial on how to get Patreon to cancel us and stuff like this, and it ended up a bunch more people signed up on our Patreons because they were like, what, you can't do that. And we ended up getting way more patrons. They were flipping out over that sort of thing.
That's hilarious. Okay, moving on to our pseudonym. The day Christians and atheists come together to defend Jews when in a political sense can be agreed Americans should have never been in Iraq during Bush. Thanks for the super chat.
Yeah.
Wait, what is that? The day Christians and atheists come together to defend Jews. When in a political sense it can be agreed America should never have been in Iraq during Bush. I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, it was
how it connects, but I think lots of people can agree that the whole Iraq thing was a giant failure and embarrassment, and I agree with that.
Yeah, it was pretty stupid.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. So this one would have been an amazing question to ask Rabbi, but Tatiana says, Rabbi, what is your opinion of the Prophet Muhammad? So we did get a little bit from him on his thoughts. I mean, he did kind of take the, I think it's really in relation to his friends and experiences with other like friendly Muslims.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's sort of where he's coming from, but I don't want to really speak for him. So, any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I would say that I would guess that he would give a perspective. He would offer a perspective on Muhammad that he's gotten based on interacting with some nice Muslims over the years. And I'm guessing that me and AP would say that doesn't line up with the sources, although I'd have to give the caveat that depending on some interpretation of what sources you use, you can get nicer perspectives of Muhammad than others. I don't like any of them, but I do think some are significantly less dangerous to the world than the dominant one.
Nice. I think with his with his focus on certain sources, I think one of the issues that also plays into all of this, as I mentioned before, my speculation is that he's just being diplomatic and kind of doing what Israel is also in general doing, which is you will rarely see Israeli authorities or Israel make suggestions about or be hostile with Islam, for example, because they don't want to bring Islam into the discussion and make an enemy. They don't want to divide by religion. They want to be friendly. They want to be understanding with people who would. In the end, Israel also has a 20% Muslim population. Many of them are actually very loyal to Israel. So I don't know. There's a lot of political, diplomatic stuff in play, which I think might be a factor.
Yeah, he did also say some nice things about Christians too at the very end when he was leaving.
Yeah, and I would say I get it, and there's a part of me that says I wouldn't actually want to explain Islam to him, because he is in that position, right? Israel doesn't want to give the perspective that this is a war of them versus Islam, and Rabbi Schmuley, I'm sure, doesn't want to give the perspective of it's us Jews versus Islam, and we're at war, even though that's how groups like Hamas view it. I'm sure he doesn't want to have that narrative, and so I get it. I get not wanting to even if he understood some of the things that we were to point out to him, even if we actually showed what Muhammad said about Jews and so on in mainstream Sunni sources, you kind of don't want to put him in the position to have to say bad things about Islam, because there are political concerns for someone like that.
Right.
So the point is, we'll do that. You have your discussions and get along with people, and me and AP will destroy Islam.
I think, to be honest, so his words about Christians came more from the heart than his words about Muslims, to be very honest. But that's just me, just my observation.
All right, next super chat, AF Iron D, uneducated West Muslims aside, David Wood, AP, time to explain how Islam all comes down to Mo, is that short for Muhammad, and how hijab and dawah do the evil his prophet says.
Yeah, we got to do that.
Maybe we can have him back on and talk about something specific. That might be fun.
Inshallah.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so this one I don't know what this means, and you guys are gonna have to explain it. I mean, obviously I know what eyes are, but what is this inside joke?
Wow. Yeah. So the joke is, what are the eyes?
Well, let me read it. So let me read it.
Muhammad said.
Wait. Let him read the comment.
Let me read it, because there are people that are just listening. Okay, the comment is, Cameron, do you know what the eyes are?
Yeah, Muhammad said what the eyes are in Sunan Abu Dawud number 203. He said exactly what the eyes are, and we went through this hadith, and there are several of the hadiths and so on. That's the one we normally go to, but want to keep going. So Muhammad said the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, and it's one of the weirdest quotes in history. And actually, AP tried to break it down to me, and I had to go to commentaries to figure out what Muhammad was talking about. And he's saying what he said there is like the dumbest possible way to say what he was trying to say. And so anyway, it's kind of a joke where everything with eyes in it, people replace it with leather strap of the anus because of Muhammad. But that's what we're stuck with.
Oh my goodness. What does it mean?
It means, in Islam you have to do an ablution, a ritual washing before you pray. After you do several things, including after you fart, for example. And what Muhammad was trying to say there is,
does everyone walk around with like portable bidets or something?
No.
Look.
Well, what Muhammad was saying is,
I've got a bottle.
if you fall asleep, you might fart and you will not be aware of it, because when your eyes are open, you can control yourself, but when your eyes are shut, you don't know what's happening to you. So therefore, when you wake up, you should always do an ablution as if something happened during your sleep.
Yeah,
that's what he was saying. But the worst possible way to say it.
Yeah, the leather. So we'll imagine that this is a leather strap. So the leather strap referred to the leather strap that would hold a water bottle closed, right? And so Muhammad's claim is that when your eyes are open, you have like conscious will over what comes out of your rear end, right? But when you go to sleep, that conscious will over what comes out of your rear end is loosened, like the leather strap that holds the water bottle closed. So you don't exactly know what's gonna leak out of there while you're asleep. And so your eyes are the leather strap of your anus. Got it? And so, the takeaway is, as AP is pointing out, hey, you don't know what came out of your butt at night, so do your ablution so you don't upset Allah.
Yeah, that's very insightful.
Should we just end the stream there? That was
or I mean, since it's such an important issue, we should probably just do an entire live stream on it.
why haven't you? Okay, let's move on. Okay, David says this stream is very Islamophobic. Just kidding.
That's true.
Love you guys and love your channel. CC, by the way, Christianity is true. AP ask AP. Wait. By the way, Christianity is true. AP ask Cameron.
No. Christianity is true. AP.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that what you always do?
But Christianity is true. AP.
Christianity is true. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, that's my tagline. By the way, Christianity is true. AP ask Cameron. Okay. Also, David, tell Cameron about the eyes. Okay, we already. Everyone seems
Been
to be
there
in on that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. Thank you for the super chat, David. Okay.
Oh, hey, look at the end there. It says, and Farfor in Ali Dawa's voice, please. If anyone can find the only version of that I can find of the Farfor death scene has already got the subtitles on it. If anyone knows where to find the original without the subtitles, send me that, because I want to dub Ali Dawa talking to this other guy, and the entire thing is going to be a commercial for Ali Dawa's what was he selling? He was selling Ali Dawa was selling orgasm intensifier pills. So I want to make a commercial where the guy's complaining. Anyway, if anyone can find the original without the subtitles, let me know. I'm gonna dub the entire thing. It'll be a good commercial.
What was it? It's called Viagra.
Yes.
Like
yes.
X Viagra.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have shown that so many times. I remember the name of it. I
showed it once only.
Well, and it's just
I've seen it like 4 times from you guys.
Yeah, it's just hypocritical that Ali Dawa's going, oh, let's get my magic penis pills, and you can all buy them, and then you can have the sexual strength of 30 men like Prophet Muhammad, yeah. And then his friend Mohammed Hijab goes on, hey, what you doing? Having a sex shop? Explain that. But yeah, hypocrites.
Yeah.
Good.
AP, I feel like you're my spirit animal, because that's like when David does something like that, I just want to do the same thing. Like, yeah. BLB, hey Cam, ask AP if he's holding a rosary. Are you holding a rosary, AP?
That's very funny. As a matter of fact, right here. So, yeah.
He doesn't.
Why are you?
He holds it. He holds it to keep demons away, but he doesn't believe in them.
No, I
should probably change your background color. That might help.
Oh yeah, I could try that. Yeah.
All right. Next one. Pseudonym says Israel denied peace hostage exchange. So what's that? Well, we did just.
They did
cover
a
news article. Oh. They're saying that from the thing that we talked about, they denied it. The guys are furiously typing away to see if it was denied.
No, so the current news is still that that Israel agreed to a deal including exchanging around 50 women and children for around 150 Israeli-held Palestinian prisoners, with a 4-day ceasefire.
Yeah, and then Biden says that they have a deal.
Yeah, hostages' families or others have 24 hours to appeal to the Supreme Court to object to the deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Biden is saying that there is a deal. That's the latest, at least on the CNN website, as of 10 minutes ago. Today, quote, today's deal should bring home additional American hostages.
It's great. So, we finally got a deal with Japan to end this war. World War II.
Right.
Sorry to make fun of your hero, AP. Okay.
Yeah.
As an atheist, you've gotta love him. Cedric says, any thoughts on the state of London as per Rabbi Schmuley's comments? Should British non-Muslims be more aware of the shifting change?
Yeah, I don't expect very much. I think I'm very sorry to say this, but I think there is a huge stupidity among Western people and Western culture lately in general, and a very great blindness that is plaguing the entire Western world in not seeing what they are dealing with. And
okay,
in
sorry.
the UK, this has led to. Go ahead. What?
I just we got a super chat from Far4, which we'll read, and that made me remember like that stream who that guy is, and I it completely derailed what you were just talking about. But we'll get to that in a second.
Now you remember. Okay, yeah,
I do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would say that people in the West are very blind to what is happening around them, what is happening in the midst of them. Even in there was a poll, like when the whole Syrian refugee crisis was ongoing, a professionally conducted poll showed that most Europeans did not want to take in more refugees, but the governments were doing it anyway because people weren't speaking up, and the elitist, aging political parties and governments throughout Europe just made it a habit not to listen to people's frustrations, especially if the frustrations come from a patriotic or national defense or nationalist side. They thought we shouldn't listen to that. We should be open to the entire world. With that whole idea, with that whole stupidity, the United Kingdom is one of those countries that has, while importing huge numbers of people from Islamic backgrounds and people who are actually worse than Nazis in many ways when it comes to, intolerance toward Jews, Christians, and others alike. They have also kind of made it their mission to reduce all the criticism of Islam and to reduce any kind of, to make sure not to hold Islamic circles accountable when they do bad things. So they kind of babied the Muslim population in Europe so much that it has gotten to very, very bad levels because they've somehow thought that by treating people that way, they could change them and could make them more European, which is a failure. It doesn't work. It's stupid. People are waking up now, but it's a little bit late. There is a huge shift right now in German politics and European politics toward the far right. People couldn't get their frustrations out, so now they are turning toward other parties and getting more and more right wing. And the overcorrection that is going to come over the next decade or 2 decades is probably going to be very problematic. We'll see.
Yeah, you're going to get something. We've talked about this a bunch in previous live streams, but basically, you have classical liberalism championing certain values like freedom of speech and freedom of expression and so on that really took root in the West and helped the West to prosper. And so people just kept after these ideas became completely dominant in society. People concluded that, hey, this is how everyone thinks. Unless there's a tyrant controlling them, this is how people in general think. Whereas the pioneers of liberalism and the founding fathers of the United States, they all said this only works with a certain kind of population. It's not going to work anywhere else. And then people forgot about all that and they said, hey, everyone can do this, and seeing the results.
Bad.
I'm so distracted by Far4.
Everyone is distracted by Far4. That's what Far4 does.
Okay, super chat from pseudonym. Thanks, Apostate. Israel's asking to be destroyed.
What?
Is that like a code or something? I don't know.
Don't know. It might have been in response to some particular thing that we now have forgotten and don't understand.
Yeah. All right. Here's Far4. All right, here's Far4. First of all, look at that profile pic.
Hey, no, you got to let me read it as Far4 because he sounds Far4 the mouse. What's funny? The ongoing joke is Far4 the mouse sounds exactly like Ali Dawa.
No, I heard that. I heard like the mouse or the Far4's voice, and then you played a clip of Ali Dawa. Like, and what
they sound the same.
That?
Yeah.
They sound the same. You're saying.
Yeah. So great show, Kim. And thing one and thing two, red shirt. Yeah, I would be that rabbi's pen pal. Yeah, and we're proud of that. Take my super shekels and buy my penis pills.
The quality of the stream went really downhill after the rabbi left.
Yeah, Cam's
We've lost.
Yeah, Cam's like, how did I invite these guys on here? All they talk about the leather strap of the anus and penis pills. My goodness.
Yeah, this is definitely exposing the intellectual side of Christian belief. During Rabbi being here, we had 1,500 people watching, and I think right now we've got around 1,000. So
That's because they all came for the rabbi.
Yeah, they came for the rabbi. You show up.
You've lost the audience.
No, you click on the link and the rabbi's not here. You click off it. That's how it works. What are you going to do? You're going to stay for AP? Come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. A pseudonym. Just sending in a ton of super chats. LOL is Cameron English dyslectic. Read and emphasis. Not sure what to do with that one. All right. We've got maybe six
stop
or
being
so
cryptic.
more.
Just tell us what you wanted to tell us. Pseudonym.
Enslaved by truth. Make the Inquisition great again.
Nah.
Another one, make Crusades great again. Okay, let's move on. North Black or in Black. If Allah exists, why does evil exist? Answer, it's a trick. Allah is only making you think evil exists.
That
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, that explanation would be consistent with most Muslims' interpretation of Surah 4, verse 157.
That makes sense.
Random. Okay. Woefully, the rabbi is wholly misinformed on Islam. Did you guys get that impression, or do you think, kind of like what you were saying, it was more, he's a political figure, you've got to be diplomatic with this stuff?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. I lean more toward the idea that he's being diplomatic.
Yeah, I lean more towards the idea of he's just interacted with nice Muslims and hasn't really studied it. But I don't. Yeah, the point is, his behavior is going to be the same either way. So, in other words, if he knows what Muhammad said about Jews and how big a problem this is going into the future, but he really wants to try his best to get along with Muslims. It's kind of in his best interest to not be saying, hey, the Muslims are coming to get us, and this is what their prophet said. But on the other hand, he may just not know. And if he's interacting with Muslims on college campuses and so on, back in the day when he's a rabbi at Oxford, he probably has a pretty high view of lots of the Muslims he's interacted with.
There's going to be a video now published saying David Wood says the Rabbi Schmuley doesn't know anything.
Okay, next one. Enslaved by truth. How many Jews have been in Muhammad's boom boom room?
Let's count them up. AP played Sigmund Freud. I mean, if you're talking about like ethnically a Jew, so Sigmund Freud was a Jew. Apostle Paul was in the boom boom room. He was a Jew. What's his name? Jeffrey Epstein was Jewish. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Yeah. Those are the Jews I remember from the boom boom room.
All right, we had a super chat from Beatrice. She said Allah made it look like Farfour died.
Yeah, similar to the other point about. Yeah. That would be funny, okay. A kind of follow-up video where, no, Allah just tricked you into thinking Farfour died. Matter of fact, they could just bring him back like that, right? Just say, oh, he's back. What happened? No, Allah tricked you to deceive the Jews.
They did not kill him, nor did they stab him. It was only made to look that way. Revelation from Allah.
All right, 2 more super chats, and then we'll get to that surprise I told you guys that we were going to get to at the end. Thank you for doing the Lord's work. You too, AP. By the way, David, could you re-upload Islamophobia, politically persecution? I thought the Southern Baptist impression was great. R.I.P. Nabil.
Yeah, that was an old video. It's you kind of can't replace it. There are lots of videos that I made a long time ago on not very good cameras and stuff that I want to remake. That's one you can't remake it because it had Nabil in it. But I wouldn't. AP, I wouldn't mind redoing that one. If anyone doesn't remember what the video is, that's where I start off, and I'm in a church. We actually have an audience there. And I'm like an angry preacher, and I'm preaching. Everything I say is a direct quote from the Quran, but instead of the word Jew or Christian, as far as calling for violence or intolerance, I replace it with Muslim. So in other words, I'm saying, fight the Muslims wherever you find, saying things like that. And the crowd is just going, oh, this is so bigoted. This is intolerant. The crowd's like flipping out. And all of a sudden I'm wearing this ridiculous blonde wig. And then all of a sudden I go, you're right. But what you don't know is I'm not a Christian. I am. And I pull my wig off and the crowd gasps and it goes back and it's Nabil, right? And Nabil goes, I'm Muslim. And so the idea was, and then Nabil gives all of the actual quotations, which were the exact same quotations, except for they say non-Muslim instead of Muslim. And the crowd's going, other cultures are very interesting. And so on. So that, yeah, we're making fun of how Westerners react to stuff. Whereas if you said this about a Muslim, you would be called horrible names. If you were a Muslim saying it about something else, oh no, it's different cultures. Who are we to judge, and so on. So we're making fun of that. AP, I'd like to remake that where I reprise my role as a preacher, but I pull off my wig and it's shake your booty. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be awesome? AP plays a character.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, AP plays a character called Shake Your Booty, and then everyone would be, wow, what a great point, Shake Your Booty.
Shaky Booty is the best.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Read it. Read the name, Cameron.
Yeah, you're muted, Cameron.
You're muted, Cameron. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry. I did watch that debate. Who was it with? Was it with Matt Dillahunty?
Yeah.
Who was
Daniel Kikic versus Matt Dillahunty? Yeah.
I still haven't.
Yes, and they did like 3 different debates, right, over like 3 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And in one portion, this played a very central role in his argument. Okay, strap-on pleasure machine is the name of this person.
Guys, just think about it though. Guys, these are the champions of Dawah. You got the 4 horsemen of the Islamic Dawah. You've got Mohammed Hijab, Mr. Golden Showers, Mr. Hey, don't go lib and the vibrators and the filters, right? You got that. You got Ali Dawah. Oh, buy my penis pill. Yo, hey, as we're discussing this, we've concluded that men can have secret second wives and they don't even tell them yet. So you got that. You have Daniel Hakikachu and his strap-on pleasure machine, and you can have sex with an 11-month-old as long as you get parental permission. You had to clarify that. Again, back to Mohammed Hijab. Oh, yes, the Quran. If you go with the Quran, you can have sex with a 5-year-old. But fortunately, we go with the Hadith, and you wait a little longer. And then I don't know how accurate it is, but a Muslim just called out Sheikh Uthman for counseling his wife to help them through their marital difficulties, and then Sheikh Uthman stole the guy's wife and married her. These are like the champions of Dawah, and they're all
nice moves.
They're all massive degenerates.
So Islamophobic.
Yeah.
All right, last super chat. Petrus Ixteen. Thanks for your work, Cam. And actually, David, Paul was from the tribe of Benjamin, so he was not Jewish.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna zero in on Jewish that much, then you got a problem. Next, you're gonna be saying I'm not Jewish.
Okay, so the thing that I told you guys that we would do at the very end of the stream is discuss some of the comments by Mohammed Hijab, where he was trying to defend himself, because one of the things that Rabbi Schmuley brought up was the fact that in a previous video that has been watched a lot. I don't know actually I do have it pulled up so I can see the views. 130,000 views. He mentions that if you just read the Quran, you can come away with the idea that it's okay to have sex with a 5-year-old. That's his argument. But his argument is apparently that you've got to appeal to the Hadith in order to show that that's wrong. And so he's trying to give an argument against the Quran onlyist group. Yep. And it looks like he's in this arguing with a Quran onlyist Muslim.
Yeah, I can give the breakdown of the point he's making there. So yes, he's talking to Quran only Muslims, and he's saying that you need the Hadith to sort of rein in certain interpretations of the Quran. He says, yes, if you just look at the Quran, if you just go with the Quran, you've got Surah 65, verse 4, which talks about divorcing prepubescent girls. It specifically says girls before they've ever reached puberty. You can look at the historical background. The question that was raised to Muhammad was specifically about what about divorcing girls who haven't reached puberty yet because they're too young. You could go to any of the commentaries. You go to Ibn Abbas, Ibn Kathir, the Tafsir Jalalain, modern commentators like Maududi and so on. They all concluded, and it's over and over again for 14 centuries. Muslim commentators said this is talking about marrying, having sex with, divorcing, and passing on to the next guy, girls, all before they've reached the age of puberty. Hijab points out that if you just go with that, there's nothing to restrain you from having sex with a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, whatever. So if you just go with the Quran, you would say, and he says this, he uses the word halal. He says you would conclude that it's halal from the Quran's perspective to have sex with a 5-year-old girl. And so if you go to, really, you have to go to the schools of Islamic jurisprudence to get some indication that you should wait for puberty or something like that. What you get from the hadith, you don't get that from the hadith. You can look at the example of Muhammad and say, okay, well, he waited until Aisha was 9, so he must have been waiting for something. It wasn't puberty because she hadn't reached puberty yet. So maybe he's just waiting for her to be a bit more physically capable of being able to have sex with a man. But he's saying, hey, if you just go with the Quran, you'd say 5-year-olds are halal. If you go to the hadith, you say, okay, there's something you should be waiting for. It's not puberty. He says that. So you're not waiting for puberty, but you're waiting for the girl to be a bit more able to have sex with a man. So that's the point he's making there. Now, one of the things that's not really relevant to the discussion now, but it is a problem. Muhammad said that when Allah has declared something halal and you listen to a man, a human being, tell you it's haram, you are worshiping that man. If Allah says something is halal and you say, but this man, and you actually go with his example or his teaching, you have worshiped that man, you're committing shirk. Now, why is that relevant? Well, it's exactly what hijab is saying. He's saying, hey, here's what Allah says, and Allah says it's halal, but we say it's haram because of Muhammad, and we're listening to Muhammad. And so that's just interesting because that is what Muhammad himself said is worshiping a human being. So according to Muhammad Hijab is worshiping men. He's worshiping Muhammad and the people who wrote the hadith and any of the scholars who all tell them, no, you can't have sex with a 5-year-old, which Allah says is halal. So creepy stuff.
So what I wanted to do is Muhammad Hijab has tried to defend himself and basically give a little bit more context. He's got a tweet. I'm just going to read the whole tweet because it's for the people that are just listening to this stream. So shouldn't take too long to read. I'm only going to say this once since I have limited time to defend myself. First of all, I'm not quoting anymore. He doesn't have limited time to defend himself as a YouTuber. You've got almost unlimited time to defend yourself. But he says, okay, continuing the quote, there is slander that is being repeated with a video taken out of context that I stated that it is okay to have sex with 5-year-olds. I said the exact opposite. I was speaking to a person who rejects hadith and stated that if you do not accept the hadith, it is easy to come to this conclusion. Having said this, both Sunni and Shia Muslims do not accept only the Quran but believe the Quran and hadith. My view, as stated in the video, is that people should get married when they are capable both mentally and physically, and that this is understood through specialists like doctors. The modern day idea that adulthood starts at 16 or 18 is an arbitrary social construct. Having said this, I do not advocate that anyone break the law in any country that they are in and get married before these ages. Notice also the title of the video in question, Extreme Consequences of Believing the Quran Only. And then he gives the link to the full video.
Yeah, we did a full live stream going through that entire video and saying, hey, go to the full video is not really helpful because AP and I pointed out, he doesn't just say that. He also says if you just go with the Quran, the word that in Surah 4, verse 34, it says you can beat your wife. It says the word used for beat there is the word for strike, and it's the same word used of striking your enemies in the necks in battle, like to kill them. And he says, so if you just go with the Quran, you would conclude that if your wife's out of line, you can chop her head off. And so you need the hadith to tell you can't chop your wife's head off. And And so we're pointing out that I mean, hijab is saying all this stuff is halal according to the Quran, but you have to go to all these other people to find out, no, you can't chop your wife's head off. And he said, if you just go with the Quran, you would be led to an extreme form. No, he said a severe type of pedophilia. So he's saying this the entire time, thinking, I'm doing a great job defending Orthodox Sunni Islam. In reality, he's saying, we've got this perfect book, the final revelation, all the teachings of Allah, the eternal speech of Allah. And if you open it up and read it, you'd conclude that you can engage in a severe type of pedophilia. That's his words. And you could chop your wife's head off you could chop your child bride's head off if she gets out of line. But yeah, so I love this guy.
Makes sense.
Any other thoughts, AP, on this whole defense of? Because David kind of gave his argument. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I largely agree with David. David Wood here.
The super genius.
Yeah, the super genius. His whole idea was basically to defend Islamic tradition, Sunni Islamic tradition. He was arguing with some Quran only fans. With some Quran only believers, and so there in that discussion, of course, he has to point out that the hadiths are important and that you have to follow them in order to establish a proper religion, because anything else would be extremely absurd. But yeah, as David just pointed out, if you go by his, but if you listen to him and then you analyze the Quran, as a singular book and guide for all of humanity, and the Islamic belief is truly that Allah sent the Quran and it is free from doubts and it answers all the questions in the world, you will end up with a book that just teaches you some extremely messed up things. And even if we put that aside, Mohammed Hijab does basically imply here that child marriage is okay, child marriage is cool, but just don't do it in a country where it's illegal.
Yeah, and a little side note there. So it's standard. It's standard in the Muslim sources to hold that you can have sex with a prepubescent girl. Again, they look at the example of Muhammad. You find this all over their sources, all over their commentaries. But notice hijabs. No, I wouldn't say that you could have sex with a 5-year-old and saying the opposite. Guess who did say? Daniel Hakikachu, Mohammed Hijab's Dawa buddy. Daniel Hakikachu says absolutely you could have sex with a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old.
So long as you have parental consent.
Yeah, you do need parental consent. So there's that.
Yeah. So one thought here is that so his argument, again, he's trying to make like a theological point, but it does have implications on like his views about like what is morally acceptable otherwise. So he's using the hadith to say that, okay, you want to accept, mainstream Sunni Islam and accept that these hadith are, what's the correct term, inspired or divinely?
Just say they're authoritative.
Authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, it does seem like he has to hold the belief that it's morally acceptable, especially for Muhammad. It was morally acceptable to consummate the marriage at 9, even though puberty had not taken place yet. Right, and so
Muhammad was special. So.
But according to the hadith, his argument is that there was something that made it okay at the age of 9, and I think what he's trying to say is that
I can tell you what it is according to the Muslim sources. It's just like the girl has to be big enough to support the weight of a man without crushing her. That's their concern. That's the concern that you find in the schools of Islamic jurisprudence. They're worried about a girl being so small that you're actually going to just squish her while having sex with her.
It's amazing that David can say these things very, very easily, because it's easy to handle for him to say.
Well,
how else am I going to say it?
I don't know.
Well, so I guess what I'm getting at is that his criteria is that you've got to be mentally and physically both capable mentally and physically. And so what? Let me finish my point, David. Let me finish my point.
I'm just saying he's full of crap here. I'm saying he is full of crap here. Show me that. Show me that from Muhammad. Mentally ready. Show me that from Muhammad. That's a
I'm doing a sort of internal critique.
It says in no source that they have to be mentally. It says in no source at all, in no tradition, that they should be mentally ready. So that is completely made up. It's not part of the authentic hadith. It's not,
okay. So the point that I would make is
Cameron. One thing before you go on. Do you condemn IDF as a terrorist organization? Yes or
no? So according to Muhammad, he thinks. I would think that this is sort of his point, is that she was both mentally and physically capable at the age of 9, and so why wouldn't he then think that would apply to other 9-year-olds, that they also might be physically and mentally able? So it's not necessarily even about Muhammad, it's about Aisha. Like, she was the one who was special, unless you just want to say that she was a normal girl, and that there are 9 years old, if you can be mentally and physically capable at 9 years old, then why couldn't there be exceptions both ways, like earlier than 9 years old?
What Mohammed Hijab is telling you is that, yes, it is completely okay, completely normal for a 9-year-old girl to be mentally mature. But I just want to, preach something here to my audience and urge people to follow their local laws and regulations, and anything else, we can talk about later. That's what he's basically telling you. There's also, by the way, very interesting. I have an audio recording from Daniel Hikikachu, which he recorded and published on Telegram after his debate with IP, where he says that some people criticize him and talk about mental maturity, but that they don't understand that mental maturity comes together with signs of physical maturity, so that if a little girl starts showing early signs of puberty at the age of 4, then you shouldn't be looking for mental maturity, because it already naturally comes with physical maturity. Allah decreed it that way, which is why a 4-year-old would be fair game. So
that's an actual
very
quote.
Sick, very messed up ideas. Yeah. No, yeah, he actually says, he actually does explain that. Yeah. Except the fair game. That's what I just said. Yeah.
All right. Well, as we wrap up the show, any other thoughts as we kind of like bring it back to? Well, I mean, we have, I suppose, been discussing things related to the debate. But any other thoughts on the debate before we kind of close this one out? I don't anticipate you guys talking about this debate anymore on your channels.
I think we do want to actually go through. If Mohammed Hijab offered an explanation of his position, we're probably going to go through that in a live stream where we go through some of the other stuff. But I think you got some. Don't you have a few more super chats before you close out?
Oh, yeah, we did. I suppose if you guys want to hang around,
unless it's like 50, then you should probably have some respect for your viewers who are contributing to your show.
So Pseudonym is sending some in, but some of them are still very cryptic, and I'm not really sure what to do with them. So I can yes.
Clarity is relevant.
Okay. Well, this one is pretty straightforward. Okay. He says, "LOL, David is siding with man's law when in Christian law you can at least strike your law. Oh, he's new testimony. Love your neighbor unless Muslim."
This is not clear.
It's not clear. It looked clear at the beginning, and then I just
It started off clear.
All right. Joshua says, Paul said, as a Pharisee, I was a Hebrew of Hebrews. Today, people change what words mean. The tribes are different kinds of Jews.
First of all, bull. Paul calls himself a Jew. Other people call him a Jew. Read the Bible. Hang on. 1 second.
I think this guy agrees with you.
Oh, hang on. Acts 22:3. I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city. Okay.
Got him.
If you go to Ephesus, they say when they recognize that he was a Jew, they start screaming, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." So, yeah, You got Joshua. You got to pick. You got to pick the battles you want to fight, man.
But
all right.
I'm pretty sure Joshua was agreeing with you here, not with the other person. But
wait, what?
Maybe I got
Wait, what did he say? Go back to that real quick.
Yeah. He was saying Hebrew of Hebrews.
Paul said, as a Pharisee, I was a Hebrew of Hebrews. Today, people change what words mean. The tribes are different kinds of Jews. Great stuff. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I thought he was saying, oh, no. The general category is Hebrews, and then there are different groups. There are different groups, and some are Jews and not. But, yeah, I think he sounds like he's agreeing with me against the commentator who said.
Yeah, why are you attacking this guy when he's agreeing with you?
Yeah, exactly. Can you slow down and read?
I apologize, Joshua. I just get heated when people start dissing my boy Paul.
Well, the red shirt is probably not helping. Just you're exuding anger and okay. Rage. Justin, AP sits around and plays video games equals atheist. DW tirelessly studies Christian. Draw your own conclusions.
That is probably the best description of everything that goes on right in our lives that I've ever seen. So you were right on the money, Justin.
I'm playing a video game right now.
What video games do you play, AP?
I'm currently playing a game that's called Hearts of Iron 4. I play strategy games. I love them.
Okay.
No, he plays this weird game where atheists finally take control and go around destroying Christians.
Yeah.
All right, we did just get one last one in. Let's see if we can do this one and then close it out. Hey guys, you know what happened to red shirts on Star Trek? Or you know what happens to red shirts on Star Trek?
I happen to know that the next Zakir Naik is like 4 years old, so he's never even seen it. So he just heard it from somewhere else. Yeah, but for anyone who's also 4 years old, yeah, it's a joke on the old Star Trek. Whenever they're beat down to a planet, anytime someone had a red shirt on, that means they're like security, and you could say, "Oh, that dude's dead," because he was going to die 5 minutes later.
That's funny.
All right, one last question that I've got for AP on the topic of video games. Kind of getting back to that question. Have you played The Last of Us?
I have, yes, several times.
Okay,
actually.
I just started it, and it is amazing.
It is amazing. It truly is amazing.
Have you played the really hard mode? Like the really, really hard mode? David, you have to stay around for this. You can't.
Yes.
You can't.
I'm just saying this suddenly turned into the nerdiest discussion I've ever seen in my life.
Well, that's the most mainstream game we can talk about. So, yeah.
I do have a gaming channel that I don't post videos on, so it is on topic for my my stuff.
I have been thinking about making a gaming channel forever.
How is everything now about Star Trek and video games? Oh, hey, after the Star Trek convention, can we zoom over and play the video game, and then we can and then when we get tired of the video game, we'll just play Dungeons and Dragons. AP, how about that?
AP, you probably have played Dungeons and Dragons, haven't you?
Only one of those games a long time ago. I don't know.
Yeah. In Deutschland, yeah.
Yeah, actually, yes, in Germany when I was little.
Okay, I didn't actually get closing thoughts from you guys on the debate, so why don't we share those real quick and then we'll close.
I think it was the best debate ever. I learned a lot from it. It was very coherent. I could listen to the whole thing and understand everything everyone was saying, and I was very pleased to see that there was like no sidetracking, no distractions, no personal attacks and all that. No references to sex toys, lubricants and things like these, and just completely on topic, entirely focused on the war that is currently going on. In that sense, yeah, I would say best debate ever.
I look at it as in the grand scheme of things, look at what's going on in the world of da'wah. If you look at it in the bigger, if you look at what's really going on, they've been worried for several years now about what they call this. They came up with this, the avalanche of apostasy. That 24%, as of several years ago, this may be more now, but as of several years ago when a study was done, it was 24% of young Muslims are leaving Islam. There were 100 Muslims leaving Islam every year in the United States. It's estimated between 5 and 10% of Muslim people who are recorded as Muslims in Muslim majority countries are actually closet atheists. You've got underground churches all over the place and so on. So they've got this big concern that all these Muslims are leaving Islam. And they're panicking about that because they're looking at, and it actually looks like that. If you go back 15, 20 years, almost no one was leaving Islam. Now tons and tons of people are leaving Islam. They're looking at that going, what are we going to do? So they're in a state of panic. They don't act like it. They act like, oh, we're so strong, we're taking over the world. When in reality, behind the scenes, because we've got the recordings. We've got the recordings of them, how they talk when they're trying to warn other Muslims about what's happening. They're absolutely panicking about all the people who are leaving Islam. They're getting desperate because once you reach a certain threshold in Muslim countries, you're not going to be able to enforce laws against apostates and things like that. You're not going to be able to do it if you have enough people. You're not going to go around killing millions of people without getting in some massive trouble. So they're absolutely panicking. And it's like people who are like drowning at sea. They're just latching on to various things. And one of the things they're latching onto is this is a great opportunity for dawah guys to jump in there, become really popular. Because the basic reason these guys are becoming so popular is they're stepping in there going, hey, I'm the one who will save our religion from this avalanche of apostasy. So just support me, rally around me, do whatever I say, and don't question anything I say. And so they're ending up with these guys. But Jordan Peterson has pointed out, the people who take advantage of these situations are the people who have the dark tetrad of cycle of personality issues. So your psychopaths, your narcissists, your sadists, and your Machiavellians. And then you get people like Mohammed Hijab jumping in there. Oh, look, I'm your hero. I'll save you from all these guys. And vibrators, dildos, golden showers. You're like, what is going on? How is that your new representative? But if he's the guy who's thumping his chest the most and impressing the young generation of Muslims, that's the point. They are clinging to absolutely anything right now. That is how desperate they are. And so people who would look at this and say, "Oh no, it's a problem. Look, oh no, they're rallying around Mohammed Hijab." No, it is awesome that they're rallying around Mohammed Hijab. And if his fans think he did a great job going on that show, vibrators, lube. What about lube? You're slippery like lube. Do you have a vibrator in your pocket? Huh? Do you? I mean, he actually, for people who didn't watch it, he actually is saying these things in the debate. It's just becoming obvious they're in a really, really bad situation. So yes, I'd say Rabbi Schmuley did a good job helping to expose the state of dawah right now, and it should be a massive embarrassment. I think it's hilarious.
Well, one thing is, while he did come out of the debate, happy and humorous and all of that, it looks like it took a little bit of a turn, and he now genuinely feels a little bit upset and angry after Mohammed Hijab responded by basically, putting his son at the IDF into a body bag and saying and making a joke and a wish and a threat about his son dying. I guess the rabbi, even after dealing with him so much, didn't realize that he's not just a complete idiot who says whatever he wants, but he's also really, really messed up. He only realized it now. So not sure what he's going to do with this information. But yeah, that's something that needs to be pointed out.
So as we kind of close out the stream, I did want to just let the audience know, if you enjoyed this type of content, so on Islam and stuff, we are going to be covering it more on the channel. So if you're watching this video, you like this type of content, and you'd like to see more of it, then consider subscribing. Or you don't have to. You obviously don't have to subscribe, but you can. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, David and AP, for spending the evening with me and for hanging out with Rabbi Schmuley. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I have to say, you should probably subscribe to the channel. If you don't subscribe, then there's something wrong with you, and you should probably be afraid. Yeah.
All right, and on that note, we'll close it out.